Why does doing nothing make men fall in love with you? I mean, you're doing nothing, so what is there really even to fall in love with? And why is it that when you finally like a guy, which happens once maybe every 2 years, and you do show him just an ounce of real love, he runs away from you? Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is this cycle is pretty much unavoidable as it relates to men. But the good news is if you understand the psychology of why this concept is happening, then you can use it to your advantage to make men fall in love with you, which is exactly what we're going to do on today's show. And hopefully by the end of this lesson, I can take you from desperation to desire. All right. So in order for us to grab the concept of everything that we're going to discuss here on today's show, I want us to first discuss an analogy that's going to encompass everything that we're going to talk about for the rest of the show, okay? So this analogy is going to start off with a construction site. Stay with me, we're going somewhere very special, okay? So we're at a construction site, and in this construction site, we're going to be building a sidewalk. In order for us to build a sidewalk, we have to use the most important element as it relates to building sidewalks, which is cement, okay? Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with how cement works, okay, they start off in a truck. Cement starts off in a truck, and the truck has like a spinning back. Okay, I'm not an expert in cement building, all right, but the truck is spinning in the back because the truck is moving the cement constantly because it doesn't want the cement to harden, which we're going to get to in a second. Now, the truck is spinning the cement, and when it comes to try and lay down the cement to make the sidewalk, right, it lays down the cement, and quickly and efficiently, as you're laying down the cement, you have to start molding the cement exactly how you want it so that the sidewalk looks how it's supposed to look, right? You don't want it to be all wonky. In order for you to lay down this cement quickly and efficiently, because remember, you only have a little bit of time here, or a very finite amount of time when you lay down the cement before it hardens, you have to have a plan before you actually dump the cement so that you can execute on that plan or that strategy very efficiently and quickly without wasting a lot of time or making a lot of mistakes. Because if you dump that cement without a strategy and that cement starts going everywhere and you're kind of making a lot of mistakes on where to put it and how to shape it and how to mold it, you're going to get to a point in the cement's lifespan where it hardens and it's no longer able to take shape or be molded in the way that you want to mold it to make a nice, neat, clean sidewalk. So the problem with this is once you get to the point where that cement has hardened and you've made some mistakes, it's spilling all over the place, it's misshapen, it's deformed over here and deformed over there. Now that that cement is hardened in place, you have no choice but to live with it exactly as it is. There is no takebacks, there is no going backwards and changing everything about the cement's placement. The reason I'm giving this analogy for everything we're going to discuss here is because I want you to understand what your goal is and what you're actually striving for when you're doing nothing. Relationships are just like cement, okay? So I'm going to put here, cement equals relationships. The reason that cement is just like relationships is because the same way when you first pour cement, when you first get into the relationship, when you first meet the guy, that is the time when the cement is the most moldable, malleable. That is the time when the relationship is the most malleable and able to take any shape or form that you would desire it to take. The same way with cement though, as time goes on, that cement hardens in place, in the place that you allowed it to take shape and you molded it for. And as time goes on, that relationship hardens in place with the dynamic that you have set at the very beginning of the relationship. And as time goes on, it continues to get harder and harder and harder to change that relationship, to remold that cement into something new. The reason that this is so important for doing nothing in your relationships and making men fall in love is because from the very beginning, you want to understand that you're doing nothing for an ultimate goal, for a larger goal. That larger goal is so that you can create the type of dynamic, the type of relationship dynamic specifically, in which the guy that you're with is used to taking initiative and taking action in the relationship in his masculine energy. He's used to going out of his way for you without you having to beg, plead, scratch, and claw. Because he has gotten used to the cement hardening in place, the relationship dynamic hardening in place, in which, in his masculine energy, he steps forward, takes action, and pursues. Meanwhile, you sit back, you relax, and you receive in your feminine energy. That is an established relationship dynamic. Doing nothing, and specifically doing nothing as a strategy, is helping to establish that specific relationship dynamic that you then want to harden in stone, turn into your cement, and become your new established relationship dynamic. Are we all on the same page here so far? Okay? Let me get a yes in the chat if we're on the same page so far. Now let's hop into our next point, okay? We shall discuss. So, we've talked about the analogy of doing nothing. Now I want to discuss with you the strategy. Okay? And I'm going to write, well, we'll do a drawing for this one so that you can properly visualize what I'm trying to say. Curly hair for you today. Okay. Short torso, medium torso for you today. And then we're going to draw the man over here. See, you guys reminded me to get new markers, and I didn't do it. I'll be honest with you. I was doing other things. So please remind me again. Please remind me again. Okay, so let's draw this. Let me see if I can grab another marker that's a little bit better than this. This one gonna work for me? It's a little bit darker. Okay, so let's imagine this here. We're gonna call this space. How creative. Okay, I want us to discuss strategy here. Now, there is a strategy to doing nothing, even though doing nothing seems like it has no strategy, okay? Doing nothing is strategic because as you do nothing, you have to understand what you're actually doing here. You're giving this man space to come to you, okay? I know it seems simple. A lot of times, the mistake happens when you start inching forward towards the guy, right? And as you're inching forward, right, you force him to actually take steps backwards, right? Because there's only so much room for a pursuer. You have to understand, both of you, and I know it feels like this would be magical, this would be amazing if this could happen. It's just not possible. Both parties can't both be a pursuer, okay? Both parties can't both be a receiver. There would be no relationship, okay? If one person is heavily pursuing, then the other person is receiving. We want the party receiving to be you, and we want the party pursuing to be him. However, if you don't do the job of giving him the appropriate amount of space to pursue, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And I want you to be thinking about that anytime you're thinking, hey, I should be taking action here, I should be taking initiative. I want you to realize what you're actually doing is you're stealing. You're a swiper the fox. You're stealing his ability to pursue you because you're not allowing him to have the space to step into his masculine energy, begin taking action, and begin pursuing you. This is a very delicate balance because this consists of masculine and feminine energy and what feels natural to us in a healthy relationship. I know it kind of sounds weird or it feels weird for some of you who have been so long pursuing men, but I promise you, men actually feel better about the idea of having the space to make the choice to pursue you from their desire to pursue you, which we're going to talk about desire in a little bit. And you have to give them the space and allow them to have that space and take a step back, not allow your emotions to control you, not allow situations or circumstances to control you, and definitely don't allow your friends to control you to convince you to begin doing the pursuing or to convince you to start to close this gap of the space because you feel like he's not yet stepping into it. Okay? Let's discuss our next point. We're still talking about the strategy, but I just want you to understand the overall concept. Okay? Now, this is where we're going to get heavy, okay? Because I want to really talk about some of the things that I've noticed is happening for all of you. What the helly? What the heliante? Look how the marker's doing me. Okay. Emotions. Okay. So we're going to make a big-headed drawing of you here because your head is massive. Ooh, you got a short torso or short legs there. Okay. Big eye head for you. Okay. Actually, we're going to put a frown on your face for this, and you're going to see why in a second. So you're frowning. And I'm not going to label these yet, but we're going to talk about these in a second. Okay, we're going to discuss emotions. Emotions are great, sometimes. And then emotions can get very bad, very tragic at some points. This happens, especially as it relates to doing nothing and trying to make men fall in love with you. Because at a certain point, right, because of your traumas, because of your experiences, because of maybe the fact you didn't have a dad in your life or whatever the case may be, right? You begin to have these types of emotions, some of which include anxiety, right? Desperation, okay? And just overall, we'll even say the simple one or the scary one, fear, okay? These emotions are drivers, meaning these emotions are putting pressure on you. That's why I put an upward arrow. They're putting pressure on you and pushing you to make outward actions. These outward actions can come across as, let's say, for the sake of example, spam text, right? They can come across as being smothering, right? They can come across as overall just doing too much, as the kids say, okay? The reason that these emotions are playing this role on you and they're affecting you this way is because when you feel these things, and you feel them very strongly, it's okay to feel emotions, you say to yourself, oh my God, this stupid idiot on YouTube's talking about do nothing, and like I'm literally trying to do nothing, but he doesn't understand. I want this man. I want to be in a relationship with this man. I need to have this man. He's the only 6'3" man who's funny, who has money, he's dark, he's got straight teeth, he's got his life team. I'm literally not gonna find another man who's like him. My life's gonna fall apart. This stupid YouTuber, he doesn't understand. I need to make this happen. I need to make this work. Okay? And this was what will happen to you over the course of time, right? The fear is playing a role on your emotions, right? The desperation, the anxiety that you're going to lose this guy. He's the last guy on earth. There's no other guy that you could possibly connect with because you don't connect with men that often. All of these things will start making you feel like, no, damn that stupid strategy. Damn that stupid do nothing, okay? I can't sit around and wait for him to come to me. I have to take initiative, okay? He hasn't been texting me. I need to text him. He said he was going to call me. He didn't call me. I'm calling him now. Okay, right? You say he hasn't taken me out on a date in 3 weeks. I'm calling him and telling him he needs to take me on a date. I'm planning the next date. I can't wait any longer, right? This is the problem. This is why I say doing nothing is actually a strategy. It's a very detailed and meticulous strategy because it's very hard to follow. When you do nothing, you also have to be aware of how your emotions will play a role on you and try to get you to not just do nothing, right? And to get you to take these types of actions, because all of these actions is what we would classify as masculine actions in a relationship sense, right? Because you now want to turn desperately into the pursuer because you feel like, well, if I sit around and wait around, the guy that I want, he's going to run away, right? Remember here, in the process of us doing nothing. And why this is meant to work in both senses. It's meant to work for the guys who you're going to build the right relationship with, and your relationship's going to harden and cement into the type of relationship that we want you in. It's also good because as you do nothing, even though you might encounter the types of men that will respond to you doing nothing with nothing and will show you disinterest because they're not really interested in you, it's still a positive because what you're doing is you're weeding out the men who don't have the disposition or the desire to actually be in the type of relationship dynamic that you know you're looking for, okay? And let me remind you, the type of relationship dynamic that you're truly looking for in your feminine energy is the type of relationship dynamic in which the man that you're with in his masculine energy is taking action, is showing initiative, is coming to you, is being a pursuer, is being consistent without you having to beg for things over and over, asking for the bare minimum. We want a specific relationship dynamic for you. So we have to make sure that we don't allow emotions to control you or force you to begin taking actions that are going to sabotage your ability to make that man fall in love with you by doing nothing. Okay? Let's now hop in to our next point. Because I know this is one that all of you, well, I shouldn't say all of you. I'm going to respond to the people who say this whenever I say this, because I see everything, okay? We're going to discuss this topic. I love this. Make sure I spell this right before the spell police get to me. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna draw your big A head here. Big A head you have, huge head, gigantic head you have, and you're really mad today. Really mad today. Okay. So this is you. We're gonna draw someone here. I'm not gonna tell you who this is yet. Okay. Sure. Okay. Yeah, it's all good. Okay, so we're gonna do this like this. I want to give you an example so that I can describe to you a deeper point that's very, very important for you to understand. And trust me, it all relates to why men fall in love when you do nothing. One of the biggest questions I get is, well, stupid YouTuber that's just on my screen. I don't know if you're an AI or not. Explain to me, because I don't get this. Am I not supposed to be my authentic self? Because you're telling me I should do nothing. And you're basically essentially saying, in order for guys to like me, I have to basically show them that I don't like them. That's so silly. That's so childish, okay? That's just so wrong. Because in a world of rainbows and butterflies, sunshines and dandelions aren't good. Sunshines, rainbows, and butterflies. We should be able to be our natural, authentic selves. Cover men in love if we feel like covering them in love. Smother them in love if we feel like smothering them in love. And love men as authentically as we feel like loving them so they can just love us back. We can be in a big love fest. That sounds great in a fantasy, okay? But let me tell you why you don't even act your authentic self in your everyday life. Let me give you an example, okay? So you're at work. You don't like your boss very much because your boss takes credit for a lot of your projects, gives you a lot of unnecessary work. He's really mean to you, really rude to you. He's just a horrible boss. So you see your boss and you're like, oh, I hate my boss. You say, this job sucks. And you also say, I want to quit, okay? This is what you feel, okay? These are your actual true authentic feelings. What does your boss actually see and hear from you? Yes, I will do that project. What does he hear from you? I understand. Right? What does he hear from you? I will get on it. Okay? Just giving you some examples of some of the things that you say to your boss. Okay? So this is a perfect example of your authentic self wants to tell your boss, F off. I don't have time for you. I don't care for what you have to say. Hey, look, I don't even want to work here anymore. But because you have a deeper desire to have money so that you can actually live your life, pay your rent, pay your car note, right? Be able to have food on your table. You don't say these things because they'll lead to you having no job and subsequently no money. So even though you authentically feel this, you don't say or act on, or I should say you don't act on it because of the consequences of you acting on it in that way. And also because of your understanding of what your overall larger goal and desire is. So let me point this back into your relationships as it relates to authenticity. I'm not saying don't authentically feel your real raw emotions of wanting to love a man, wanting to smother him with love, wanting to be all over him, and wanting to confess to him your feelings. I'm not saying you're not allowed to feel those emotions or you're wrong for feeling those emotions. All I want you to do after you feel those authentic feelings is I want you to remind yourself of the larger picture, okay? And the larger picture here as it relates to doing nothing is that you are strategically not doing some things so that you can give this man the space, like we talked about earlier, to come to you, to fall in love with you, to desire you, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Because if you don't do that, then the larger goal of being in that healthy, happy relationship that hardens into cement in the relationship dynamic that you want will not happen, okay? So you can't think of it as, oh, I'm suffering because I can't be my authentic self. You have to think of it as, I'm doing something for me so that in the response that I get, I will eventually be happier in the long run because the thing that I guess we could say developed over the course of time with the actions and the strategy that I took is what allowed me to be in the position, be in the relationship that makes me overall happy. Are you following me? Okay? Are we on the same page? Let's hop into our next point, okay? Because now that I've kind of discussed authenticity and why you can be authentic in your feelings without necessarily letting it sabotage what you're trying to do, I want to discuss this here. Okay? We shall discuss. So, this is the part that I think a lot of people struggle with. We're going to draw this out here. So, we'll have 3 stages. Oh my goodness. Can you guys see that? It's getting really light here. I'm gonna just have to keep switching them out. I'm gonna find one. Let me know if you guys can see that on the board here or if it's too light. Okay? So, I want us to discuss dates and how doing nothing on dates is supposed to work, okay? You're gonna have the before, you're gonna have the during, and you're gonna have the after as it relates to your dates. Now, in the before, let me talk about how doing nothing is supposed to actually apply before you actually go on your date. You don't need to overcompensate or overtext, right? This is something I love to remind people of when um, I'm helping them in their situation. And they say things like, well, I don't know what's going on with him. He hasn't texted me. He hasn't called me. Well, he has your number, right? Right? He knows how to contact you, right? So that means if he really, really wanted to contact you, because he really, really wanted to go on another date with you, because he really, really wanted to organize a first date with you, because he really, really wanted to talk to you, he would just do that, right? The reason I talk about this is because this is part of understanding how to do nothing and why it works properly. Remember, I talked about giving men space to come to you. The desire to say, well, we haven't been on a date yet. I need to reach out to him, text him, call him, so that hopefully during the span of us talking, he can be reminded of the fact we haven't gone on a date and then say to himself magically, I want to go on a date. No, okay? Stop doing that. Let the men reach out to you. And even when they do reach out to you, be short with them. Not being short with them as in being rude with them, but don't try and overcompensate. Stop trying to overcompensate. Overcompensating never works. Remember what we're doing overall. We're allowing men to come to you, right? And the ones that have the disposition where they desire you, they want to be with you, and they want to take you out, and they want to get to know you, they will respond accordingly, because when you give them the space to step forward, they'll actually step forward. The ones that are not what you want, that we're weeding out anyways, will not respond well to this when you take a step back. But that's exactly what we want. We want to build you a relationship in which you're able to receive without doing exorbitant amounts of work, okay? In order to make the relationship work. Then when you get to during, right, of course you're going to be asking questions, but you're also, make sure I put this here. You're also going to be understanding this concept, which is timing, okay? And you're going to be abiding by this rule, which is to cut things short. The reason that this is important as it relates to doing nothing, and why this is important, is because when you need to understand doing nothing is not just about doing and saying nothing. It's also about giving him room to desire you. I alluded to this earlier in the show. The emotion that you want to build within men, the number one emotion when you're doing nothing, is the emotion of desire. Desire is the emotion that men need to be able to have within them, bubbling up to the surface, that allows them to then say, I need to take action on this desire by reaching out to her, by calling her, by asking her out on a date. So doing nothing is also understanding how to allow desire to consistently exist in the relationship that you have with a man, that he can continue to act on that desire. In order for desire to exist in that relationship, you cannot be present. Okay, I'm gonna say this again. Desire can only be present in a relationship or a situationship or in anythingship with a man when you are not present. Does that mean you have to ignore him? No. Does that mean you have to actually say, hey, I'm literally purposely not gonna answer his text for the next 3 days. I'm gonna go ghost. No. All it means is you have to remind yourself that as much as I'm having fun and enjoying myself and I want to be here and I want to have a good time, I'm not going to allow the fact that I'm having a good time to make me forget that doing nothing is the real only way for him to truly fall in love with me. Yes, he's enjoying me right now. Yes, I'm having a good time with him right now, but I have to cut things short in order to remain in that space of desire so that he can act on his desire and the strategy of doing nothing can actually work for me. Because even though you might be saying, well, I'm doing nothing when we're hanging out and we're going out on dates and, the 2-hour date turns into 3 hours because after the dinner date, we had so much fun that we went on a walk. And then after we went on a walk, we were having so much fun that we decided to, go back to his place for some wine for the next 2 hours. And then we drank wine for 2 hours and we were having so much fun drinking wine that we decided that I will just have a sleepover there since I was drunk and then I didn't want to drive back and this and that. And then the date that was supposed to last 2 hours ends up lasting 12 hours because you sleep over and then you wake up the next day and you go back to your place the next day, right? That still becomes a version of doing too much. That you're not giving the man the space to desire you because you're always there. And because you're not giving the man the space to desire you because you're always there, right? The same thing ends up happening. Now he can't miss you. Now he can't say to himself, I want to see her more. I want to ask her out again. I want to go out on a date with her again. Remember, right? Your goal overall is to be in that happy, healthy relationship where your man is used to taking action for you. He's used to taking initiative for you in the relationship, right? Make sure this is working correctly, okay? Where he's accustomed to that. You want to develop a relationship in which that is happening on a consistent basis. Then we get to afterwards. And this is where a lot of things fall apart. Because a lot of people, right, a lot of women, when you get to after the date, you start thinking to yourself, okay, well, I had a good date, but we have to go on another date, and I hope he really enjoyed this date, so maybe I should text him and remind him how great the date was so that he can be prompted to send me a message back and say that he wants to go on another date. Don't do that. That man, once again, he has your number. He knows how to contact you. If he wanted to ask you out on another date after this date, he would do that. When you're doing nothing and you're doing nothing properly, you don't even allow the anxiety of did he like me to stress you out and force you to do things that you shouldn't be doing if you actually want him to fall in love with you and have the space to fall in love with you. Because men need to be able to take that action, like I talked about before, to fall in love with you. All of these different stumbling blocks, I should say, right? Or distractions will take you away from the ultimate goal of doing nothing so that he can fall in love with you. These are easy places to stumble upon, right? Because you're on the date and you want the date to last 8 hours because he has your number, but you feel like maybe he's busy. So you have to send him a text as a reminder that you exist so that maybe he'll be reminded of that. No, you want to text him afterwards so that he can remember that he needs to take you out. No, you're doing nothing. Let's hop into our next point, okay? And this is one that I want to use to talk about the concept, this concept that actually got brought up yesterday. So I want to address it today because I think it's super important to address. We will title it this. This is a important, really important actually. I'd probably say the most important of the show. Okay. Oops. Okay, so we're gonna draw you here. We're just gonna draw a quick sketch of you. Hopefully our marker can last till the end of the show. And we're gonna talk about these different points here. So I want us to have a conversation about this because this actually got brought up yesterday, and when it got brought to my attention, I wanted to address it because I realized I hadn't talked about it specifically on a show, okay? So there can be a desire on your part to, as you're dating guys, and you're trying to think of how to get them to like you more, you start projecting what you know gets you to like a guy more on the guys, and you think to yourself, well, if these actions get me to like a guy more, then maybe if I do those same actions for a guy, it'll get him to like me that same way. Wrong. Let me tell you why it's wrong, because of the differences between men and women and the way that we respond to love, okay? For you as a woman, you have an innate desire to want to be, right? You have oh, this is light. Let me see if I can switch. I just got to switch them out. Just got to switch them out. Let's see, that's better. You have a desire to be protected. We'll say provided. Oops. For, right? amongst other things, etc. So because you have a desire to be protected, provided for, etc., right? If you meet a guy and that guy is not really your type at the very beginning, he's chatting with you, you're like, I don't really date guys like you, you're kind of nerdy, you're not really my style, right? But he continues to message you, he asks you out on dates, and you're like, you know what, I'll just go out for a good time. And when you go out on the date, you're like, he was kind of funny, he was kind of interesting, he's not that bad. Then you go out on a second date and a third date and a fourth date. And after a while, you start saying to yourself, you know what? That guy, he's growing on me. At first, I really wasn't that into him. But as I got to know more about his personality, who he is, I'm starting to like him now. I also like the fact that he's so consistent with his pursuit of me. No matter what I do, no matter what I say, he is always texting me, always calling me, always making sure I'm good, always going out of his way, to try and get access to me. And I kind of like that. I kind of appreciate that type of effort. See, what you have to understand is that's natural to you because you want to be protected, provided for, and desired. So when a man is so consistent with you over the course of time, even if you don't actually like him initially, the fact that he's showing you that consistency, showing you that effort, showing you that desire actually speaks to a lot of the things that you inherently desire in your natural state as a feminine woman, in your feminine energy, right? So he's speaking to your nature when he's doing things for you, pursuing you, and then growing on you, okay? Now, for the men, this is where the mistake happens because men don't have this same desire to be protected and provided for. So when you try to do things like, hey, you know what? I can tell this guy he's not that into me. Or I can feel like he's kind of lukewarm. Maybe he's not ready for a relationship. Maybe he's got other things going on. But I know, if he just got to know the real me, if we just went out on a couple of dates or maybe we hung out at his place and he could see how funny I am, he could see how interesting I am, he could see how amazing his life is when he spends it with me, right? Then I'll eventually grow on him and he'll fall in love with me. No. Men are different. For us, we do this thing where we pursue value, okay? We can also say we hunt to win, okay? Now, when I say we pursue value and we hunt to win, what am I actually saying? I'm discussing the fact that for us, if a woman comes to us and is trying to prove how amazing she is and how, you know what, I'm the girl that you're looking for, it's not going to have the same effect as it has on you because you're a woman and your desires are different. For me, I want to go out as a man and I want to find the really valuable girl, the really desirable girl that everyone wants. And I want to do work. I want to hunt so that I can have that girl. Okay? That's what makes me feel good. I actually don't get dopamine from you coming to me, doing all this stuff to try and prove something to me, and you're just there. I don't get dopamine that way. My nature doesn't work that way where you can be here and I feel accomplished in getting you and I feel like you have value. I don't. In fact, the opposite happens. If you come to me and you're trying to grow on me and you're pressing me all the time, calling me all the time, texting me all the time, trying to prove something to me, I'm actually going to believe you have no value. Because my natural existing disposition is that the women with value are being pursued by other men. So if I feel like the women who have value are being pursued by other men and my goal is to pursue value, then I begin questioning your value when you're here doing everything trying to pursue me. And I assume that you have no value because if you did have value, all your energy would be spent on trying to stiff arm and get rid of the many men who are pursuing you. Okay? And it's very important to understand how this concept works Because when you do nothing, you're actually speaking to the already existing nature that men have to pursue value. When you do nothing, even when you're in the relationship with the guy, you're allowing him to pursue you in a way that reminds him, yeah, she has value. Yeah, she's got to stiff arm them guys away. She's got to stiff arm them guys away because everyone wants her. Everyone wants her, including me, but she's even not doing anything for me. I need to prove something to her. I need to hunt to win, okay? This is how I can fall in love with you as a woman. And this is why we're different in the ways that we fall in love and the ways that we kind of massage ourselves into a loving state, if that makes any sense. You can't make the mistake of thinking that the way that you fall in love, which is allowing basically a man to grow on you so that you can feel all these feelings in your feminine energy, is the same way that men fall in love, because it's not, okay? Right? Are we on the same page? Now, we're going to discuss this. And I want to ask you guys a question when we discuss this point here. I want to ask you this question, and I want you to answer for me in a truthful way that makes sense. Okay? So we'll say here, I'll title this A. I'll say that this is D. And I'll say that this is E, okay? So, as I do an explanation of what these stand for, I want to ask you guys a question, and I want you all to answer this in the chat, okay? Have you ever been with a guy, like laying in the bed or hanging out with him, and either one of you, as you're laying in the bed with him or sitting next to him, have said, while you're next to him, I miss you? Tell me if that's ever happened to you. Tell me if you've ever been in the bed with someone, you've been laying next to them, you've been on the couch with them, wherever you've been with them, and as you're with them, one of you says, I miss you, while you're with that person. Tell me in the chat if that's ever happened to you. I'm very curious. Okay? I want all of you to participate, and I'm going to write these down. Okay? And we'll say explosion. Okay, so I see someone say nope. I see someone said yes. He said it like, I've been missing you. Yeah, but I stopped doing that because WTF. Yes, okay. So let me ask you guys a question, okay? When we think about that response, does that logically make sense? Does it logically make sense to miss someone when you're with that person currently? I know that the person may or may not have said it, but when you really sit down and you think about it, how can you miss someone who's with you right now? Is that even possible, right? Because let's think of what missing someone really means. I miss your presence. I miss whether it be being around you. I miss talking to you. I miss having you by my side. I miss cuddling you. I miss smelling you. But if you're with me right now, how can I really miss those things? The reason I say this, and I want for you to be thinking about you, right? For you to be thinking about this, is I want these three things to be on your mind as it relates to why men fall in love when you do nothing. A is for anticipation. Anticipation is the period in between when he is not seeing you, but he's getting ready to see you again. So I should actually put anticipation, if we want to be visually logical here, I should actually put anticipation here because we're going upward, okay? So anticipation is when a guy is getting ready to see you again after having not seen you in a while. This process, right, is built up within him from the depths of despair, which is desire. Desire is down here where he's feeling, I guess, really sad. And he's feeling like he misses you because he hasn't seen you in a while, he hasn't talked to you in a while, and he would love to see you and talk to you again. During this time when he's in the depths of despair and he desires you the most, this is when he takes action. He takes action during this time because this desire pushes him to make a change to the fact that he hasn't seen you in a while, he hasn't spent a lot of time with you, in order for him to say, I want to return to a place of explosion, right? This is where he wants to get to. And in order to get to this place of explosion, I have to obviously ask her out. I have to obviously talk to her so that I can see her and be with her and no longer continue to miss her, right? So the reason that I say all this is because I want you to be thinking about this roller coaster of a cycle. Because this roller coaster of a cycle is really how men need to be taken on a roller coaster of emotions in order to properly build real solid feelings for you. I know it sucks. I'm not here to change the game. I'm just here to explain it to you so that it makes a lot of sense to you. And ask yourself, when you're dealing with guys, when you're in relationships with guys, when you're dating guys, are you actually allowing him to go through this range of emotions? This is not toxic, by the way, okay? There's nothing wrong with this. You can be a non-toxic person living your life, and this can be happening within the guys that you're dating, and it's a good thing for him to go from desiring you, taking action on that desire, to anticipating the next time he's going to see you, to the explosion when he finally does see you again, not for too long. You see how there's a peak here, and then he doesn't see you again, and then he goes back into the state of desire to do the thing over again. And over the course of time, what should be happening, if I have some space down here, right, is that process should basically allow him to make this gradual upward slope into liking you more and more as time goes on. Because as he's going through these roller coasters of emotions, he's realizing every time he gets to this desire point that I really do like her. I really do enjoy spending time with her. I recognize the fact that I like her so much and I love spending time with her so much that I want to see her again. A lot of times, see, remember how I talked about the emotions and the anxiety and the desperation? You're robbing men of this process. Okay? You will rob a man of the process of being able to go through these ebbs and flows, build his overall feelings for you when you start doing things like spam texting him, calling him 24/7, reaching out to him just because he hasn't reached out to you, right? Trying to see, well, if you haven't texted me, you haven't asked me out on a date, then maybe I should remind you of my... Stop doing that. Do not rob men of this process. Allow them to go through this process. Recognize that this process is important to their overall feelings for you, and recognize that their overall feelings for you is going to change how they act and approach you. And recognize that when you do this right, right? When you do this right, you'll get the final result that you want, which is for your relationship to harden and cement in the way that works best for you, where your man is accustomed to taking action for you, taking initiative for you, being the type of man that you need, right, in the relationship, because you don't have to beg, you don't have to scratch, you don't have to claw. He's already there, ready to satisfy your happiness, ready to satisfy your needs, ready to give you princess treatment because of how much feelings he has for you. Okay? Does that make sense to all of you beautiful people? Let me know in the chat if you have any questions for me, okay? I will answer any questions that any of you beautiful people have, okay? The vent says, it's true, I automatically come with an emotional roller coaster, right? And remember, it doesn't mean that you have to be a toxic person, okay? You don't have to be a toxic person just because you see this roller coaster of emotions. It's natural for people to miss you. Like I just asked you guys, right? When you say that you miss someone, where's that really stemming from? What are you really saying? I miss your presence. I miss being around you. I miss how you smell. I miss hanging out with you. I miss touching you, right? That's fine. That's good. That's natural. But how do you miss someone? You miss them if they're actually not there. It actually doesn't make any sense to miss someone who is actively present with you. All the things that you miss about them, you can experience, right? Desire is present where you are not. Okay? Zara said, if he wants to see you and you hold off, is that good? Hold off in what sense? What do you mean by holding off? Like you deny it? In that case, what are you denying it for, right? Dragon says, I feel like I'd be saying it because I'm already thinking about the moment they aren't there and how sad it feels. So Dragon, it still goes back to you're saying you miss someone when you're thinking about when they're not there, right? So same thing, right? Desire is present where you're not. So you always have to be strategic about doing just enough where he can have the explosion, but never overdoing it so that you're never not present. Okay? It's such an important part of the roller coaster men have to go through to build their feelings for you. You're different, okay? And I get that you're different. And I get the way that guys will make you fall in love with them will be different, but we can't project that onto men because we're just different in the ways that we build our feelings over the course of time, okay? Kelly says, he hasn't texted me in 2 days and I'm getting anxious. So then this show is for you. Why doing nothing is actually what makes men fall in love. Trust you me. You will never get the right response from a man when you are the one taking the initiative and trying to reach out. Every time, like clockwork, you feel like, he's not talking to me, he's not texting me, he's not reaching out to me, maybe I should say. It never works. Never works. I have helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women. And I have never once seen it work for a woman to like press a man or to start taking a bunch of action. And then all of a sudden he goes from being uninterested to saying, yeah, you know what? You've been doing so much for me, texting me so much, talking to me so much that I've realized I actually like you because of how hard you're trying. No guy has ever done that. And even my guy friends, I've never once had a guy friend come to me and say, I didn't really like that girl at first, but she kept on trying over and over again. She kept on texting me. She kept on calling me. And eventually I started to like her. It never works. Your mind is trying to play a trick on you. Do not allow your mind to sabotage you. Don't allow your mind to ruin your life. Do not do that, please. Don't reach out. Do not reach out. Let him come to you. He knows how to contact you. Okay? Zara says, especially if he pissed you off and you want him to come to you. I know it sucks, but it's hard, but you have to let him go through his process. And you also have to, I know it kind of sounds weird, but you have to like let guys decide for themselves. You have to because you will be much better off holding a guy accountable who has decided for himself. What I mean by that is, for example, like when you go out on a date with a guy, and this guy has asked you out on a date. He saw you out somewhere. He approached you. He asked for your number. He asked you out on this date. He did all the planning. He did all the organizing. When you're now on this date and you're telling him about your standards or your expectations that need to be met if you're going to take someone seriously, it becomes his responsibility to meet those standards or expectations because you're only here because he asked you out, because he approached you, because he asked for your number. He's the driver of this relationship. Not that you're not interested or that you're emotionally unavailable, but he's the driver in pushing things forward. And because he's the driver pushing things forward, if he wants to be with you, then he has to meet your standards and expectations. The problem, when you start doing things the opposite way by being the initiator, by being the driver, is you can't really hold men accountable because when you say, hey, I expect this, these are my standards, these are my expectations, he says, why would I care about your standards or expectations? We're on this date because you begged me to come on this date, right? You're the one that organized all this. You're the one that basically asked for my number. You're the reason that we're even here in the first place. Why do I care about upholding a standard for what? I didn't want to be here. You wanted to be here. And it takes away your power as a woman, especially at the very beginning when you haven't even slept with him and you're supposed to have all the power to be able to determine how the relationship is supposed to go and set the standard and the expectation that he has to be accountable to and he has to meet. Because when you're in that position of power, then you can say, you know what? I don't like the way you're acting. I don't like your approach. I don't like your attitude. I'm just not going to talk to you anymore, right? But then it's on him to make a change. You don't have to be bothered or you don't have to be in a position where you're scrambling and being like, well, what if you don't change? If you don't change, well, then you don't get access to me. Right? Very simple, very simple. Tyler says, this changes my view and helps so much. LOL, we're doing this a service by allowing them to be in their true nature without interrupting the process. 100%, Tyler. 100%. It is a process that men have to go through. Some take longer than others, right? Some move at a different pace than others, but nevertheless, it is a process. And you want to give men the space to go through this process. You're doing both of you a service, to be honest, because when you do this for him and he responds correctly, then you end up in the type of relationship that you actually want to be in, which is that one where he's taking initiative and he's being actually a leader, okay? Vanessa says, what if he texts me every day and I reply right away, but not initiating first? There's nothing wrong with responding to a guy. There's nothing wrong with texting him back. I just don't want you to get into the habit of feeling like I'm the one that needs to take action. The other thing is, Vanessa, see, attention for men can be very addicting. And you don't want to fall into the trap of getting too much dopamine from the attention that he's giving you, that it sends you into despair when he's not giving it to you, and then it makes you feel like you have to start taking action. What I mean by that, Vanessa, is he might be texting you every day, and you might get used to the routine of just texting him back and everything's all good. But what happens on the day that he actually doesn't text you that day, the entire day? And what happens if that day turns into 2 days? What happens if that even maybe turns into 3 days? Because when you become accustomed to the good feelings and the dopamine that you receive from him texting you all the time, then sometimes you don't know what to do when he stops texting you. Now you feel like this is like prime for you to start messaging him. Let him go through his process. Let him return to the state where he says, I was texting her and I love talking to her. I haven't texted her in a bit. I kind of miss her. I actually want to text her again. I actually want to see what she's up to. I actually want to check in on her. Let him go through that process of being reminded of you on his own and then texting you again. Now, obviously, there's a time limit to that. You don't want guys to just disappear for weeks on end and then show up again. But you get my point, right? You don't want to allow the time in which he's not giving you attention to then spiral you out of control and you lose all of the order of operations and the systems that we were trying to put in place for you to be successful, okay? Right? Miss Blue says, I'm in the first talking stage. Guy said he wanted to talk earlier, but I told him I was busy until after 6, even though I wasn't. I mean, well, did he call you after 6 then? Right? That's fine. That's fine. If you were busy or you just maybe didn't feel like talking at that time, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Romana says, what is the best way to ignore a man to create that desire? Leave them on seen or on delivered? Should we still post on social media? This is a great question, Romana. I would say this. The best and easiest way for you to just do this, just live your life, okay? When I say live your life, I mean, don't allow your phone to control everything that you do throughout the day. Give yourself time away from your phone to focus on whatever task or thing that you're doing for yourself that you find interesting. Putting the phone down in general is just a good practice in life. But putting the phone down while you do things that you care about for yourself, taking care of you, is the perfect opportunity to take some space away from talking to him, from messaging him, from calling him. And it also will balance out where you don't have to feel like you're trying to play some game because you're purposely ignoring him or purposely not texting him back. Just give yourself the ability and the space to, when you have something that you're doing for you, focus on that. Don't feel obligated to have your phone at your hip everywhere you go and with everything that you do, that you have to respond to him instantly. I know that some of you feel that pressure of like, I want to make a relationship work so badly that I feel like if I don't respond instantly to his text, then I might stumble away from this relationship or I might lose my opportunity. Stop thinking to yourself that you're losing out on opportunities just because you don't text the guy back instantly or because you don't call him back instantly. You have to get good at investing in yourself, loving yourself, making time and giving that good, detailed, focused attention to just you, even at the expense of him sometimes. Because remember, and I've talked about this on other shows as well, what men are really desired to, as it relates to women, is when a woman is heavily invested in herself, ironically. I know it sounds so bad because it's almost like I'm saying guys love selfish women. But if you think about it, guys love selfish women, because what are women doing who are heavily invested in themselves? They're taking care of their mind, their soul, their spirit, their body. They're going to the gym. They're taking care of their skin. They're having bubble baths. They're like all of the things that girls do to just take care of themselves. All of a sudden, this guy's looking across the room. He's like, who is that girl? I want that girl, right? But if you think about it, that girl's not doing anything for him. She's doing absolutely nothing. All she's been doing is investing her time and energy into herself. And for whatever reason, that's the most attractive version of a woman, is the one that invests so heavily into herself, she can't be bothered to give energy to anything else or any other person. And now I want that girl. As opposed to when you think about it, and not to be mean, but when you think about the girls who are investing the most energy into other things, those are the girls that are the most unattractive, because none of that energy gets put back into them, right? They're not taking care of their health. They're not taking care of their mind, their soul, their spirit. They're only projecting on other people. They're only doing for other people. They're desperate for other people's approval. They're desperate for other people to like them. They're always a people pleaser. They're like a doormat getting stepped on by everyone, always getting taken advantage of. Those people never have energy to invest in themselves. And those people are very unattractive. Just the reality, right? Dragon says, what if he went to the military? What does that mean? What do you mean as it relates to doing? What do you mean? What is your question as it relates to the military? Heather says, I'm just refocusing my efforts on being pretty and glowing up in my castle. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. And you can watch shows like this to keep you strong, to keep you mentally sharp, to keep you on top of your game, where you feel like, hey, anytime I'm feeling weak, I'm feeling down, I'm not feeling like a bad bee, I got to remind myself what I'm really doing here, okay? Just to remind myself who I really am, what I'm really supposed to be on, all right? And then as you get that reminder, you go back into the field and you're good. You keep investing in yourself. You keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. It keeps you strong, keeps you sharp. Don't fall for the trap where they come to you and then you start becoming desperate and then things fall apart. It's not gonna work, okay? Miss Blue says, I do feel like I'm playing a game and it's forced for me. Remember, right? You're allowed to feel authentic feelings. Just don't let those authentic feelings sabotage your overall goal. And remind yourself, because this is why I wanted to describe it to you guys in a visual so it really hits home for you. And in this concept so it really hits home for you. The men themselves are going through a process. So Miss Blue and anyone else that feels like, oh, well, I'm playing a game. I don't like playing this game. I just want to tell him how much I love him and how much I miss him and how much I want to be with him. If you really want him, and you really love him and you really care for him, you'll allow him to go through his process that will let his own authentic feelings build for you in the way that's natural to him as a man. And you'll remind yourself that I'm doing him a disservice in terms of allowing him to build his authentic feelings if I smother him. The best way for allowing his feelings to grow for me is to let him take action on his feelings for me, from his own volition. That is when he'll be the happiest, and that's when I'll be the happiest. I know what's a game, it's this, it's that, but I promise you, when you start when it's harder to see it when you're not in it, but when you build the type of relationship that you've been desiring, and you see it actually manifesting in the way that I've been describing, where the guy is taking initiative, and then you're not having to ask for stuff, and you're not having to beg for stuff, you'll be looking around, you'll be like, wait a second, it was that easy? I'm not begging for nothing. Wait. I don't have to ask him a million times. Wait. This princess treatment stuff, I can actually just receive it? I thought you had to be a supermodel for that. Whoa, this is actually how it works? I just sit around and I do nothing? This is crazy, right? You'll feel like you're unlocking a secret. And I'm saying that because I've helped women go from one place to the other place, and then they're actually in the relationship and they're like, wow, it really is just doing nothing. Like, that is crazy. But it works. But now that I know it works, I'm never going to go back, right? Ariella says, all the fish seem to be taken where I live. I am in a big city too. That is a limiting belief, okay? That's a limiting belief, to believe that there's no one available for you. There is someone available for you. The same way you might have found an ex that you never thought you would find. You found that person, you'll find another person that's even better than that person. As long as you're putting yourself out there, there's always people to meet. You can't have if you have the limiting belief that there's no one out there for you, then you're never gonna find anyone. Especially if you live in a big city, you have no excuse. you have no excuse. You could go out every single day for a month straight and meet someone brand new. So you really have no excuse if you live in a big city. Plus, you have lots of things that you could go to and attend where you can meet new people. So you really don't have a damn excuse in the world. Tyler says, does being heavily involved with ourself go into that value they see? So instead of seeming or actually being other or seeing other men in the picture, it's actually ourselves. I think what you're asking is like, do they think that we're more valuable when we are investing in ourselves? Yes. You don't. So even I think that some women start to think when I say, oh, like, give him some space away, let him desire you, let him miss you. Some women take that and they think that that means they have to fill the rest of their time with other men, or they have to date 18 men at once so that they're not focused or caring too much about any one singular man. No, no, no. This is not about taking your time and energy and investing it more in just across multiple men. It's about taking your time and energy and continuing to invest in yourself, whether you're single or whether you're dating someone, and reminding yourself that in order for him to go through his process, he needs some space to go through that. But in order for you to continue being desirable, you need to continue prioritizing and focusing on yourself and not fall for the trap of overly investing in the guy or trying to take initiative for the guy to try and prove something to him that you're not even going to prove in the first place. So I should say, this video is titled, I Fell in Love with My Psychiatrist. And it's quite interesting because there's been a lot of backlash about this video because apparently people are feeling like she's delusional. And she's just in the wrong in terms of like her viewpoint on why she fell in love with her psychiatrist, because apparently she feels like it was all her psychiatrist's plan all along, which is quite interesting. So I haven't listened to this all the way through. We're going to watch this for the first time, at least for me, together. I'm going to give my commentary on it, and we're going to discuss maybe some mistakes that she came across and some ways maybe we can all learn from her situation. So we'll have a conversation about this here.
I fell in love with my psychiatrist, and he knew, and he kept me until I had the strength to leave after 4 years. Here it is, part 1. So I decided to go back on ADHD meds after many years of being off of them. I was on them in my early 20s to help me get through college, and then I went off of them because they just weren't, like, the side effects were too much over the benefits. But then in my late 20s, I read this book, Taking Charge of Adult ADHD, and it absolutely changed my life. For my fellow ADHDers, there's so many good things in here.
Also, just to make a little bit of a note that I noticed here, she has disabled all the comments, because I tried to go on her TikTok and find her videos here on her, because it's like a 28-part series. She disabled all the comments. So clearly there's some disagreement with her viewpoint here, which is quite interesting.
And the biggest thing that I took away was that it's very important for ADHDers to be on meds. So I decided to make an appointment with a psychiatrist. I just Googled psychiatry in the city that I lived in, and I went with the first one that came up, and I got an appointment within a month. And then I booked a 90-minute intake, and I show up to the intake, and this man is my age, and I can't help but notice that he's pretty attractive, this psychiatrist. And he kept me anyway, part 2. So in this intake, you know, I kind of clocked that he was attractive in my age, but when I tell you that I've had a lot of couch time in my life, a lot of therapy, you know, I just went right into it. I trusted him enough, of course, why wouldn't I, to tell him about my childhood trauma, my daddy issues, if you will, what I had went through, all of the relationship trauma that I had. I was 6 months sober at this time, but like all of the drinking and substance use I used to do, and he just listened and nodded. And that's the thing about psychiatrists, is that they're good at pretending to listen. They
so she's okay. So unless I'm mistaken, it's a psychiatrist's job to be good at pretending to listen. They get paid to do that. So you want them to feel like they want you, sorry, I should say, to feel like they're listening, because that's what's supposed to happen, so that you can tell them your problems so that we can work through them. I'm confused why she's saying it as if like that's not his job.
can appear connected, but that doesn't mean that they're always connected. So I just felt really seen. And I also told him, I was like, look, I don't want to be on stimulant meds. So he listened to me and he put me on the non-stimulant ADHD med at the lowest dose just to figure out if it was going to work for me.
Part 3. So I hadn't ever seen a psychiatrist before. When I was on meds in my early 20s, I only got meds from my primary care physician. So I didn't understand how psychiatry works. So because he was figuring out my med dose, I saw him every month and he just made me feel like I was his friend. He was really, really funny and cracked jokes and told me he was impressed with my running that I would do. And
That's kind of part of being a psychiatrist, though, where wouldn't it, like the comfortability to help you open up, be honest about, I don't know, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah, so of course I loved the attention that I got from him. And it was in my 3rd session with him, because at this point we were all on Zoom, that I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I call you by your first name? And he's Pakistani, so I said his first name wrong. And he said, well, it's pronounced this, but yes, of course you can. And he seemed so smug and happy with himself. And I know that that is because that was his first sign that him pretending like we're friends was working. And to be fair to me, I had
Why would he be wanting to pretend like he was your friend? I mean, okay, so I always think of things from a business standpoint. So if we think about, let's just say hypothetically, he gets paid more the more clients that he has. If he makes you, sorry, that it's his client, feel like you're his friend and you feel more familiar with him, you're less likely to leave him as your psychiatrist, and you're more likely to come back for more sessions because you probably feel like it's helping you, because you probably feel like you have someone to talk to. So you're saying that it's his plan to make you feel like, hey, we're friends, everything's working out, hey, we're real close, right? But at the same time, if you feel like you're his friend, that actually benefits like his wallet. Am I tripping or no? Tell me if I'm tripping.
only ever been to therapy before. I didn't realize that, it's important to call your doctor last name. I mean, I did know that. I did it with all my other doctors, but it just showed that the boundaries were blurring, and he liked that. So from then on, from my 3rd session on, I started calling him his first name. And then he just started turning up the volume on us being friendly. And he would ask me, for the first 6 sessions, he asked me after the meds, he said, how's your bowels, bladder, and appetite? And I would say they're all normal. And then he would ask me any thoughts of harm. And apparently that's pretty common for psychiatry to ask those questions. And then on our 6th session, when things were really, the chemistry was starting to be there before, I didn't realize it. I was like, oh, this man's just friendly. And he said, I have to ask this because it's a special interest of mine, but is there any thoughts of harm? I was special to him. And I said,
okay. I don't want to be mean to her because I know she's just trying to tell her truth, but I'm trying to empathize and put myself in her shoes. I'm waiting for her to say something though that's hard evidence that yeah, for sure he was taking this to another level. She just keeps saying, oh, I felt a vibe. She's like how the kids say, I felt the vibe. The vibe was there. He wanted to be more than friends. The vibe was there. I was special to him. Maybe she's gonna say it in the rest of this. Maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but it's his job to make you feel like you guys are friends. Same thing with when a bottle girl is serving you at a club, right? She wants to make you feel like she's kind of flirting with you. Maybe she's interested in you. If any of you are bartenders in the chat, don't you flirt with the people who are ordering drinks? Make them feel like the vibe is there, that maybe you might give him your number because maybe you think he's the first attractive guy you've ever seen at this bar or club, obviously, so he can tip you more.
no thoughts of harm. And he didn't ever ask me a clinical question again. He stopped asking me about my bladder, bowels, and appetite, and he stopped asking me about thoughts of harm. So to me, I would just show up and he was like a therapy appointment every month.
So I was seeing him every month and just gaining more and more respect for him because he would just tell me these little things about his successes and all of the cool things that he was doing in his life. And it made me fall for him, honestly. And he was really good at listening. And I mean, he's Pisces, right? So of course he's going to be there.
What? Why? Okay, no, is she trolling, chat? Is she trolling or no? I don't know if is this a whole troll series? Why is she saying that like that? Why is she saying that him being a Pisces is, oh, he's a really good, it's his job? Why is she saying that? Is she trolling? Why is she saying that?
And be able to go deep with my feelings, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't extracting from them. Anyway, so I would beg him to let me see him every week. Beg him, because my therapist at the time, he was fine. He wasn't a predator, but he was fine. He just wasn't doing very much for me. And so...
Whoa. Sorry, I think I missed that. Did she just say their current therapist was fine, he wasn't a predator, as if to imply this psychiatrist is a predator? Let me make sure I didn't miss that. Let's rewind.
You know, he wasn't a predator, but he was fine. He just wasn't doing very much for me. And so that therapist retired and I got a new therapist. And this new therapist, who is a 75-year-old woman with a PhD, she was pretty helpful. So I stopped asking my psychiatrist, begging, honestly, to be my therapist and let me see him more, right? Which also should have been a red flag. But then I started focusing on this therapist. However, I would tell the therapist how obsessed I was with my psychiatrist, and she didn't do anything about it. She just was interested. She also loved.
Are there any therapists or psychiatrists in the chat? Because I'm not sure what your limits are in the job. What are you supposed to do if one of your clients tells you they're obsessed with their psychiatrist? Are you supposed to have some sort of responsibility there? What are you supposed to do with that information?
Loved stories about my dating life, and yeah, she also was getting supply from me in her own way, but that's for another part. So yes, so I got a new therapist who actually helped me. She taught me CBT, EFT, all of these different modalities, and so I went back to just being okay with seeing Irfan once a month while he was giving me these little breadcrumbs of making me feel special, telling me about his professional achievements, telling me about how he's getting international recognition, and it worked. I was really impressed. See me weekly, and that is when the intermittent reinforcement started. Some sessions he'd be warm and kind and wonderful and let me in on little parts of his life and like be vulnerable with me or pretend. Other sessions he would be cold and clinical and detached, and you know what that did? It made me work harder in our next sessions. It did, and it started the addiction that I had to him, 100%, and he knew exactly what he was doing. This man gives lectures on trauma and attachment theory. He used his psychiatric training to manipulate me and get me hooked, and guess what? It worked.
So my question is, because I'm not going to judge, chat. I'm not here to judge. You guys can judge. I'm not here to judge. My questions become, okay, so you feel like he's using this strategy, he's an evil genius to manipulate you and get you hooked, get you addicted. Get you hooked and get you addicted on what exactly? Becoming his client for a lifetime? He wants you to have a lifetime pass? What you're coming once a month. So I don't know how expensive he is. Let's assume it costs you $300 every time you have a session with him. He's getting you addicted to become a lifetime client. Is that maybe unethical? Sure. Is that illegal? No. Does that make him a predator? I don't think that makes him a predator. If in the worst case scenario, he's using this manipulation to just get you to come in over and over again, because she still has yet to mention him actually saying or doing anything inappropriate. She's just making a claim that he's using his skill set to be able to get her to want to come in sessions and work harder for him. Okay.
January of 2024.
Just saying.
I was hit by a car turning left as I was going through a green light, and it was the night before my next appointment with my psychiatrist. So I was like, okay, I'll still be able to go to my appointment on Zoom. I'm okay. But I did make an appointment with an urgent care the next day just to get checked out. I had bruising on my abdomen and a perforated eardrum. And the provider at the urgent care said, I do not feel comfortable treating you. You need to seek emergency care now. You may be internally bleeding. But it was 11 o'clock in the morning and my appointment with my psychiatrist was at 2. So I decided that I was going to wait so I could see my psychiatrist and not have to reschedule, because I was looking forward.
So nobody prepared me that we were gonna have this is what we're gonna discuss today, chat, and nobody prepared me that this is what we were gonna discuss today. She could have had internal bleeding, and she said, no, I need to go see my psychiatrist instead. So okay, I'm confused. This is not satire, right? So she's saying what's confusing me a little bit is her expression. She's speaking as if she's proud of what she's doing. So that's why I'm a little bit confused. I'm not hearing the shame in her expression. So I'm concerned she doesn't even sense something is wrong with the way that she reacted to that situation. Or maybe she's just placing the blame on the psychiatrist, that, oh my God, I only did that crazy stuff because the psychiatrist had control over me.
To my appointment with him so much. I look back at that time and I'm just like, oh my God, I put my own life under seeing him. I was fully addicted to him at this point. And okay. You know what happened is that...
Okay, at least there's some recognition that that's not what you're supposed to be doing.
I showed up and I told him that I may be internally bleeding, and he didn't stop the appointment. He didn't say,
you need to take care of yourself, go get emergency care now, he let me continue and just tell him about how much I loved him and how grateful I was for him. Because that was really what most of our appointments were, is me just.
I'm an accountability type of person. That's my personality style. You know, I like to be held accountable. I like to hold other people accountable. So when two adults are dealing with each other, I get it. You know, he's the psychiatrist, he's the professional. So yes, to a certain extent, he does have a responsibility to look out for her best interest, even if she's not looking out for herself. But also there has to be accountability over self. If you didn't feel like it was that big of a deal that you could still come to the session, then you being there and him saying, okay, you're at the session, so maybe it's not that bad, right? Is not unfair, right? Because he's a psychiatrist, but he's also evaluating if you're at this session, yes, you could have internal bleeding, but I don't see any symptoms of you like being on the floor or being extremely in pain or anything like that. And clearly you are still able to prioritize this over the possibility of you internally bleeding. So maybe you're okay, right? I'm not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that that is a logical conclusion to come to based on what you're describing to me.
Like pouring myself out because he was so good at the intermittent reinforcement. Yeah, I got some warmth from him at that appointment. So that was January 2023. And I also told my therapist about this. She said nothing. See him, that's when he really started turning up the intimacy in our appointments. However, he was really smart and knew the professional lines like the back of his hand. So he would comment on my appearance, but not compliment my appearance. So I would come on screen and he would say, oh, you curled your hair. Or I would come on screen and he would say, oh, you're wearing glasses. And of course I felt seen and excited that he was noticing these things about me. I didn't realize at this time that he had feelings for me too. I thought I was holding them all by myself. So I was so excited when he noticed my glasses that I ran and showed him my other pair. And he said, I prefer turtle shell glasses. So even though I usually wear contacts, I'm wearing these turtle shell glasses in these videos because just in case he sees them ever, he'll see me in.
It never stops. It never stops. It never stops. It never stops. You know what this reminds me of, chat? This reminds me a lot of, sometimes I'd be having conversations with girls and they be telling me how this guy that they're talking to, oh, he's so crazy. Oh, he's literally a narcissist. Oh my God, I can't deal with this guy. He's the worst ever. They go on like an hour-long rant about how horrible this guy is. And then after they finish their rant, I'll be like, oh my God, that guy is crazy. That's insane. So basically you blocked him, right? What? No, what? No. What? You didn't block him? Oh yeah, you probably didn't need to block him. You're just ignoring all of his text. No, I don't ignore all of his. I still text him back, when he texts me, but only when he texts me. He's just so crazy. He's just so narcissistic. You just finished saying how horrible he is, but then you're texting him back. She just finished saying how this guy is a predator, and she's literally saying, while she's making this video talking about how he's a predator, she's saying that I'm wearing the turtle shell glasses that he said he liked better, hoping that if he sees this video, he'll see my turtle shell glasses in the video of me claiming that this man is a predator. Let's go on.
His favorite glasses. He did tell me he likes the turtle shell. Anyway, it was just inappropriate things like that. Little teeny things that he let me in. And all this time, my best friend is an emergency medicine physician. And she told me, she said, Kendra, one of these days, your psychiatrist, she would use his name, is going to say, I can't be your doctor anymore. I want to be with you. I want to be with you so bad. I can't be your doctor. I'll see you in 2 years. So my best friend, who's a doctor, she picks up on stuff like that. So even she knew that our relationship was crossing boundaries and getting weird. But that became my dream, was for my psychiatrist, I almost use his name, to do that. And I told him about Brianna saying that, my best friend, who's the emergency medical doc. I told him that she would tell me that, and he just would be silent. He didn't disagree, but he didn't agree. And that was weaponized neutrality was his favorite game to play, right? He didn't disagree with Brianna telling me that my psychiatrist had feelings for me, but he also didn't say that's inappropriate. Let's change the subject.
So now not having an opinion is also an opinion. Sure.
It was also around this time that I asked my psychiatrist if he had diagnosed me with anything other than ADHD when I had my initial diagnosis. And he said, yeah, I did. I said, oh, what did you diagnose me with? And he said, well, you had a lot of traumatic things happen to you in childhood because of your dad. And so I diagnosed you with other trauma and stressor related disorder. And that was the first little ping that I got of like, that was weird. Why would he keep that from me? I asked him, like, why wouldn't he tell me that? That seems important. He didn't tell me because he was using that information to manipulate me. He knew I had trauma and stressor disorder, and instead of helping me heal from it and telling me about it, he used it against me. January 2023, at this point.
To do what? I'm not even going to say that she's lying or she's not telling the truth. My question is, what was he using it to do? Because that's a bold claim. What was he using that information, that manipulation to what point is he trying to get to here? Because you can't, the same way when you say someone is a unaliver, right? When you go into court, the whole point, that thing that you're trying to prove is you're trying to prove motive, right? What is the reason that they unalive the person, right? Because most people don't just wake up one day and they just feel like unaliving, unless you're a serial unaliver. But what is the reason that he chose to manipulate you to do what with that manipulation?
I was full-blown obsessed with my psychiatrist, and my therapist wasn't helping me. My psychiatrist wasn't helping me. He was feeding it. And then I got a boyfriend. And at first my psychiatrist wasn't really that keen, but then my psychiatrist realized that my boyfriend was a lot like my psychiatrist. And then I started talking to my psychiatrist about my sex life, about tracking my cycle, using the fertility awareness method. And my psychiatrist loved it. He didn't ever say, this isn't inappropriate to your care, let's pivot. Oh, he just let me talk and talk and talk about my sex life. And I didn't.
If you felt it was inappropriate, why would you talk about it? Like, which side are we on? Do you feel like it's inappropriate? If you felt like it's inappropriate, why are you sharing it with your psychiatrist? I don't know. I don't really understand the concept of that. It's your life. It's your story. You're sharing it with him.
Get too deep, but about a year and a half in, and I would send my psychiatrist these emails just about how much I liked him and how I was so grateful for him and put in a bunch of heart emojis.
Why did she say liked with such a long L? Like she was about to say love. Why did she say that like that? Like she wanted to leave that out because she was feeling ashamed of what she actually said. I pick up on a lot of stuff, chat. Let's listen to this again.
Just about how much I liked him and how I was so grateful for him.
Why did she use the extra L? Like she was going to say something else.
And put in a bunch of heart emojis. And this is really when he should have transferred my care, but he waited. He liked what I gave him too much. And so even though my boyfriend did not meet my needs, my psychiatrist and my therapist both were like, you have to stay with him. There's nothing wrong with him not meeting your needs. I'm like, okay. And my psychiatrist was like, he's perfect. Don't get wrong with him. And what was perfect about him was he wasn't meeting my needs. So I was still coming to my psychiatrist looking for emotional validation, which he would drip to me slowly. So my therapist, who I didn't know at this time had bad boundaries, but she did, I went to her because my boyfriend and I, after like more than a year together, we started having issues in the bedroom. And so I went to my therapist and she asked me, what does your psychiatrist think about this? And I said, I don't know. I haven't talked to my psychiatrist about this stuff because I have a crush on my psychiatrist and I don't want to tell him this intimate stuff. And she said, well, you should tell him because I want a male's perspective. So at my next appointment with my psychiatrist, I told him, I said, today we're going to talk about my intimate life. And he said, oh. I said, yes. My psychologist, my therapist, asked what your opinion on it was. And I told her that I don't talk to you about this intimate stuff because I have a crush on you. And he looked down and smiled so big.
I don't want to judge, so I'm just
in that moment. He smiled so big and I loved it. It's so gross thinking about it. And then I proceeded to give him.
Wait. I don't like when people try to do that. Why are you saying it's so gross when I think about it? But you just said earlier that you're wearing the same turtle shell glasses that he said he liked. Which one is it? Do you hate this man or do you love this man? Because you wouldn't, and you just said yourself, you're wearing the turtle shell glasses because you're hoping he'll see this video because you know those are the ones he likes. Why would you do that if it, whatever.
30 minutes of non-stop content about my intimate life with my boyfriend. And I actually recorded the whole thing because I was so excited about it. But now it makes me sick. I can't even listen to the recording. I've tried to start, but it's gross. Any ethical psychiatrist would have stopped me and said, Kendra, let's talk about your...
Is that even legal for you to be recording your Zoom call with your psychiatrist? Is that even legal for you to do?
Meds. Let's talk about your care.
Did she just admit to a crime?
At this point, my meds were stable.
And I was still seeing him every month. Yeah, that was a rough time. And it was pretty much his Christmas morning. The almost 2.5 years of grooming me to get me to talk about sexual things with him worked. And he got 30 minutes of nonstop content to use. Things. One, people are
Content to use to do what? To fap? Like he's good. Let me stop.
asking me what my mental health diagnosis is. I do not have BPD. I do not have psychosis. I have ADHD. And I was experiencing extreme limerence with my psychiatrist. Limerence is a normal thing to happen to anyone who is experiencing hot and cold behavior from someone. And it happens more often in people with ADHD because we have dopamine dysregulation and rejection sensitive dysphoria. And guess what?
Why didn't it happen with your therapist then? Or it, never mind. You know what? Never mind.
My psychiatrist knew that and used it to his advantage. 2, I accidentally said my psychiatrist's first name in one of my videos. If you clocked it, good for you. I do not owe him anonymity. However, this is not about doxing my psychiatrist. This is about me sharing my story so other people can view predatory behavior in people in power. Okay? If anyone doxes my psychiatrist with his last name or city that he works in or clinic that he works in, your comment will be immediately deleted and you will be blocked. This is about protecting other victims, not doxing my psychiatrist. If you do some investigative work and you want to DM me about it, I'm open to that. Okay? 3, I need to take a moment. Moment taken.
So I don't understand. Because I'm trying to put myself in her shoes. So he's a predator. She's trying to share this information to help other people not be succumb to the predator ways of other psychiatrists. She recognized that one of the things about this psychiatrist of his ways of basically telling her that he liked her but not telling her that he liked her was to make a comment about her appearance and talk about the glasses that he likes her to wear. So she's wearing these glasses as what, an FU? I feel like, so let me know, chat, because I don't want to make an assumption for her. I feel like if you really hated someone, you were really sickened by their actions, disgusted by the things that they said or they did to you, you would actually avoid wearing or doing anything that you associate with them. And I know it's kind of a small thing to go back to, but I'm always looking at like the very minute details, aside from what someone says, what they're doing. To choose specifically, because we're on part 7.5, which means at the very least, if she's making a part a day, this is now 7 days in a row. She has plenty of other glasses to wear, and she's choosing to wear the glasses that she associates with the psychiatrist the most. The one that she finds to be a predator, that she finds to be disgusting, that she finds his behavior to be deplorable, right? But she's choosing to wear the glasses that constantly remind her of him. That doesn't sound like an FU to me. Because I feel like if you really felt someone was a predator, you would avoid wearing or putting anything on your body that reminds you of that person. That's just my thought process, my logic train, but okay.
It is so incredibly disturbing to me, the amount of people that are predator protectors in my comments, that are victim blaming me, especially the mental health practitioners in my comments, using therapy speak to say that this situation that I was in was my fault or that I was delusional. Check yourself. You're giving me more ammunition to share my story because it just goes to show how absolutely messed up the mental health industry is and how protected people who do this kind of sick psychological manipulation are. So I will continue with my story. Welcome back to another installment of I was in love with my psychiatrist and he kept me anyway.
She's still wearing the glasses. Okay, let me not overdo it.
Part 8. You all did some nasty work last night and I had to turn off comments. People started posting my psychiatrist's first and last name, his picture in the comments. That was a jump scare. So yeah, a few bad actors who wanted to be super sleuths got the privilege of commenting, mostly hate, let's be real, taken away for everyone. So at this point in the story, there are 2 main players. My psychiatrist, who's my age, who crossed major ethical boundaries, and my therapist, who is a 75-year-old woman with a PhD. Neither of these people, at this point in the story, I knew were crossing boundaries. I thought that everything was hunky-dory and that I was just in love with my psychiatrist and it was totally normal. Little did I know he was manufacturing everything so I could fall in love with him. Because it was on him to set the professional boundary and not let attention build. So days after my psychiatrist's Christmas morning appointment from a few videos back where he got a crush confession from me and then 30 minutes of non-stop intimate content that he did not stop me, my boyfriend and I broke up days later. So then I started dating this other guy. And this other guy, this new guy, was a therapist. And I was like, oh great, someone who will be able to emotionally meet my needs. Yeah, I'm not gonna date another therapist again. So this therapist and I, we went for coffee. It was nice. Our second date was a hike. And on this hike,
this therapist starts telling me about how he has a crush on one of his clients. And I thought to myself, okay, this is strange, but go ahead. Like, we're on a date, dude. Why are you telling me about
this? This is therapist inception. I can't. This is insane.
I'm one of your clients, but go off, King. So then he was saying, yeah, she's so attractive, and I think she likes me too. I go and visit her at work, and her coworkers say, oh, so-and-so talks about you all the time. And I was like, okay, where does she work? And he said, well, I shouldn't tell you that because I really shouldn't be visiting her anyway. I was like, okay, no problem. So then he continues, and he said, yeah, she wears these red.
I'm really confused. She went on a date with a therapist that's telling her about the client that he's in love with or having feelings for. What type of date is this? What type of date is this? You're on a date with someone and they're telling you about the crush that they have that's actually illegal, and the illegal actions that they're taking with an what? Okay.
Anyway, I was like, okay, no problem.
This is what they do on Hinge, chat? I don't know. I'm not on Hinge. This is what they do on there?
So then he continues, and he said, yeah, she wears these red lacy panties and short skirts. And I know she wears them for me. And like alarm bells were going off in my head. Mind you, I had no idea that my psychiatrist had similar feelings towards me at this point. But I just thought, wow, this man is borderline predatory. And he said, yeah, and you know, she just is so attractive that I have to smash her mate before every session because I just have to get that energy out of me. And I was like, okay. And he just felt compelled to tell me, and I did not understand.
I don't understand either. This is supposed to be a date. Why? What?
And why? Now I do. So he told me about how he's a predator, right? Another predator in the mental health industry. Shocker. So then at my next appointment with my psychiatrist, keep in mind, it had been 6 weeks of nonstop fun for this man. He got to use my crush confession and 30 minutes of content, for whatever he wanted to use it for, right? And if my psychiatrist was good at anything, it was being professional and acting professional and technically not crossing.
I'm not. So I want to specify, I'm not laughing at her, but you have to understand, you know, when I'm trying to follow the logic seriously and she says some things that just come out of left field, I just can't help but laugh because it doesn't sound grounded in real human logic. I'm just being super honest with you, because she's talking about how much of a predator he is, and then she's going on to say the one thing he was very good at is being a professional. How does that make any sense? Listen, I'll get on the logic train with you if you're going to say he's a predator and you're going to show the evidence of why he's a predator and tell us stories of why he's a predator, cool. But for you to say out of your own mouth the one thing he was really good at was being a professional all the time is just like, come on. Like, you can't have both. You can't have someone who's doing things inappropriate at work and then say, honestly, they're a professional. So their biggest secret is that they were hiding their bad behavior under all the professionalism.
Lines, and he thought that he was so good at it because he was good at it, but that doesn't mean he wasn't doing it. And so I told him, I said, yeah, Bo and I broke up. He had known about this other guy, my psychiatrist. I had mentioned him, and I told him that this new guy and I went on a date and we went on a hike, and I literally had no idea at this point, I'll say it again, that my psychiatrist was predatory towards me. I almost said his first name again. I'm going to do my best to not. So I went to my psychiatrist and I told him this story about this man that I went on a date with, who's a therapist, is relieving himself before appointments and talking about his client's panties and doing all of these other extremely inappropriate things like visiting her at work. And this man, my psychiatrist, looked like he had seen a ghost and like he was gonna vomit, because he prided himself on being an extremely professional and buttoned up person. But here I was holding a mirror to him with exactly what he was doing, but a bumbling idiot telling me like how he was doing it without the fancy degree, without any of that. I look back on that now and it's just crazy. And so it just tainted all the fantasy material that I'd given him the session before. Hi, I need to say something really important. And that's that it seems as though many people view what I'm going through.
Day 9, she's still wearing the same glasses.
As a crush out. What I'm doing as a mental health spiral. And of course it seems like that. I get it. It's an extremely dark thing to talk about. All of this that I went through. And I am sharing my story because it wasn't out there. No one else has shared a story like this. But I know that it happens a lot because people are in my DMs telling me that the same thing that I went through, they went through too. I am now in TikTok jail. I got a violation on the video where I talked about really the biggest damning evidence against my psychiatrist. And So because of that, I have to be really careful. So I'm going to do my very best to not be reactive and to share my story from a place of generosity, because the people in my DMs telling me that they've been through this too, it's keeping me going. It's not my mental health spiral. And I can understand that for some people in the mental health space, because they have been some of the loudest people to speak out against what I'm doing, it's hard to grasp that someone could have this level of predation in such a high place of power. So just in case my video doesn't get put back up, when everything changed was when my 75-year-old therapist, I went to her with intimate details and she suggested I go to my psychiatrist with them. And I felt so excited and nervous to share that with him because I had such a big crush on him at the time. And I recorded all 33 minutes. So this is why, if my psychiatrist wants to come with me and like sue me for defamation, I have a 33-minute recording of me admitting I have a crush on him and speaking about extremely intimate details. It was in that moment that he really, really should have transferred my care. But that moment changed everything for him too, because that's when things really started getting deep between us. And this is where the story is going to go from now. It's going to be a good story. And I'm going to try to tell it all today, just in case one of my
What do you mean a good story? Good in what sense?
videos does get banned so people can hear it. But just know, if you're concerned for my mental health, thank you. I am very good, more than good actually. And I am actually a coach for ADHDers. It says it in my bio. And I help people work through self-limiting beliefs. I help people work through numbing with alcohol and cannabis, because these are the things that so many of us do to avoid our truths. And this is my truth and what I went through. So this is when the chemistry really started going off the charts with me and my psychiatrist. And I held it alone for months, like after that Christmas morning appointment of his. And then
Okay, chat, what do you think she means when she says chemistry off the charts? Because now I don't know how to predict her anymore. So I don't even know what chemistry off the charts is supposed to represent. What do you guys think it's supposed to be?
after I innocently told him about my date with the
By the way, we're on day 10, the same glasses that represent the psychiatrist, because those are the favorite glasses that he likes on her.
therapist, he really started letting me in more and showing more parts of himself and, turning up the intimacy. And that was exciting to me, and it made me fall for him more. And I noticed that he was working in an office, and I asked him, this was like July, I said, hey, are you working from home? Because I was under the assumption that he was only doing telehealth, okay? And he said, no, I come into the office. I was like, oh, why do you do that? If you see all of your patients telehealth? He's like, oh, I like it that way. And even though I could kind of tell he was lying, I just gaslit myself. I was like, okay, it's fine. And then I start emailing him my fun little emails, but he stops writing me back. He does not write back to my emails anymore. Because once again, he was really good at plausible deniability. But what he did do is he would take my emails and mention them in session. So he would still give me the attention that I was craving, but only under his structure, under his control, where there was no paper trail.
Or during the session when he's getting paid to actually respond to you. Am I tripping? I'm tripping? Responding to you during the session when he's getting paid to respond would be the most logical way to respond, because he's not supposed to be responding to you all throughout the week when you're sending him emails like text message. Or maybe I'm confused. I'm probably confused.
And I loved that too. So I would show up to these sessions with my notes app, and just throughout the month, as I was thinking about him, I'd write down things that I wanted to talk to him about, and I would just come and bring him lots of content. And then every week I would go to my therapist and tell her about how much I loved my psychiatrist, and she didn't help me at all. She just
So you were paying? I don't understand it. You were paying the therapist essentially just to be your dumping ground, to tell your therapist how much you love your psychiatrist. It doesn't even sound like you're getting anything productive done with your therapist, because your therapist time is just taken up by talking about your obsession, for your psychiatrist. Why would you? She must just have money to spend, because that's just, to me, that's just a waste of money. You're just telling whatever.
kind of like enjoyed hearing about it, honestly. So October 2024 rolls around and we're just vibing on Zoom. And then I realized that I didn't have my next appointment with him. So I called his office staff and I talked to the office manager, who was awesome. We really got along, we vibed. And the office manager asked me, do you see him, the psychiatrist, in person or on Zoom? And I felt so angry in that moment. I was like, he sees people in person? And she said, yeah, he has been for years. I was like, I want to see him in person. And I understand, like, some people may think that this is part of my crash out or part of me harassing him, which is what I've gotten lots of accusations of. But I just would like to remind everyone that, of course, it seems that way. But I was just responding to a dynamic which my psychiatrist fostered. There was chemistry.
Oh my My head hurts. My head hurts. My head hurts. We listen, but we don't judge. We listen, but we don't judge. I am not going to judge.
Between us because he allowed it. And so then the next time I saw him in Zoom, I told him, I was like, hey, your office manager outed you and told me that you see people in person. Why didn't you tell me that when I asked? And he said, oh, I just didn't think you'd want to come in. And that was such a weak lie from him, from someone who is so scripted and controlled. He didn't even have a plausible thing to say. Of course he knew I wanted to come in. I had a crush on him. I told him that often. So then in my next therapy appointment, after finding out that he was lying to me about seeing patients in person, I told her that. I told my 75-year-old PhD therapist that my psychiatrist.
Someone said, wait, this was all on Zoom. Yes, up until this point, everything we're talking about is on Zoom. That's why I was saying, I don't even know if it's legal for, because she was saying that she recorded one of their sessions. I don't know if that's even legal for her to do, to have that recording of a therapy session with your psychiatrist. I just think there's some laws or rules against that because of client patient privilege or something along those lines.
Wasn't lied to me about seeing people in person. And she looked at me and she said, well, it's probably because he knows that there will be a lot of sexual tension in the room if you go in person. So make sure that you understand that when you go. And you better believe I showed up to the next session and said you lied to me because you were afraid of the tension that would be there between us. He just didn't say anything. 2024, I make my first in-person appointment with my psychiatrist in November. My 75-year-old female therapist tells me that it's because he kept...
Okay, so I want to pause for a second because part of the reason that this is a little bit troubling to me is while I'm not here to try and victim blame or anything like that, it is quite concerning because, usually when you're dealing with predators, the predator will be the one escalating the situation to the point where either for the victim, there's a breaking point or there's like a boundary cross where the victim's like, okay, I can't take any more of this. This needs to stop. But even as she's describing the story from her own perspective and point of view, everything she's talking about in terms of the driver of the situation is her, right? Every escalation to the next point and the next inappropriate point has always been her as the driver, which is why I'm confused why she's calling him a predator and then going on to say in her story, I did this, then I did this, then I took action and did this. He responded this way. Then I took this action. He responded this way. I'm not trying to blame her, but I'm just saying the predator is the one who's doing the driving and the escalation. That's usually how it works. Rarely I don't know of many stories where the predator can be the passive one. But maybe I'm confused.
On Zoom because he was so attracted to me. He didn't want to risk being in person with me, which further fed my crush, or as some of you like to say, my delusion. So then my therapist, person with me, tells me that it's because in-person appointment with my psychiatrist in November. My 75-year-old female therapist tells me that it's because he kept me on Zoom because he was so attracted to me. He didn't want to risk being in person with me, which further fed my crush, or as some of you like to say, my delusion. So then my therapist starts texting me in between our weekly meetings, asking me for advice on her other clients. And I was a new coach. I'd only been coaching for about a year, and I had just left my full-time job to be a coach full-time.
Wait. What the hell is going on? Now so that's inappropriate, but that's not even the psychiatrist that this story is about. That's her therapist, who's a 75-year-old woman. That's inappropriate. But why is that's inappropriate.
Meetings, asking me for advice on her other clients. And I was a new coach. I'd only been coaching for about a year, and I had just left my full-time job to be a coach full-time. And I was flattered that she would ask me advice on her other clients. I just thought, oh my gosh, a 75-year-old woman with a PhD wants my advice on what she should do with her clients. So then November rolls around, and I'm about to meet my psychiatrist in person for the first time. So I wear a really pretty dress, I do my makeup, of course, right? And I show up. And I get to talk to the office manager, we're having fun. And then my psychiatrist comes into the foyer, and I am just so excited to finally meet him. I'd been his patient for 3 years at this point, and he had been feeding the dynamic for 3 years. And I was just thrilled to meet him. And I ran up and I gave him the biggest hug. And you know what he did? He barely patted me on the back. It was the most awkward thing ever. But I'm so glad that he did that. I am really glad, because this is what I mean. My psychiatrist was many things, but he was not stupid. So I didn't ever touch him again. And I'm grateful that our relationship didn't ever cross that line, because it would have made everything so much harder. Anyway.
Again, we're talking about him being a predator, and then we go on to talk about how she is escalating the situation. Okay.
So we go inside his office and I tell him that my therapist had texted me asking me for advice on her other clients. And he just looked at me and he said, Kendra, that is a huge boundary violation. She should not be doing that. And I was like, oh, okay. And because once again, my psychiatrist did not like sloppy people. He did not like sloppy people. And you know what my therapist did? She got sloppy. Yeah. Using me as her advisor for her clients.
So then this story should be about her and then everyone would be on your side.
It got weird. And I was very grateful for my psychiatrist for pointing out that boundary violation, because that was the thing. He didn't ever message me in between appointments because he was too smart to do that. But did he ever stop me from disclosing extremely intimate details? No. In my first in-person appointment, I just asked him for some pointers for my own ADHD business, and
he didn't ever stop you from disclosing details during the sessions that you're paying for. I always tell you guys this thing too, like whenever you're flirting with the guy at his job, remind yourself, slap yourself in fact, he's getting paid to be there. So yes, he might be flirting with you. Yes, he might be showing you some interest, but also remember he's showing you interest in the place that he already had to be anyways. And that's very different from showing you interest when he's there for free or he's paying to be in the place that he is, if that makes any sense, right? Because whether you were there flirting with him or not, he would still have to be there.
So smart and so wonderful, and in many ways, honestly. And I was just so grateful that he was honestly a mentor to me in these moments. And I'll still treasure that about him. Because this is the hard thing with sophisticated predators, is that they're not all bad. Like, my psychiatrist helped me with many things, but he was using me for the
November of 2024, and I did ask him for consent to...
What day are we on now? I know this is part 12. I don't know if this is like day like 10 or 11 of her wearing the same glasses that she said her psychiatrist liked the best, but he's a predator, but she wants him to see her. She wants him to see her in these glasses. Day 10 or 11.
I'm in person. I didn't just show up. And he said, sure. And the first in-person appointment went great. But that is when I really started to spiral. Some of you think that I'm spiraling now, and that's okay if you want to think that, because the reality is that when I was spiraling was when I was this man's patient. When I had comments turned on, so many people said, you need to take accountability for your own feelings. I spent years taking accountability for my own feelings, for holding the weight of a relationship. Any woman who has been trained to overfunction in relationships knows about holding the weight of the emotional dynamic. And that was what was going on in this moment. And it may not seem like I'm taking accountability now, but that's because I spent a long time taking accountability for something that had two people that built that dynamic. It was not just...
Okay, so again, listen, I'm not here to tell her she's lying, but when we talk about who's escalating and driving these situations forward, she is doing... I'm actually trying to think back to anything that she said that would be him driving it forward. Obviously, she came to him, right? It's not like he seeked her out for help. She came to him for help. She's the one that escalated to having the more intimate sexual conversation. She's the one that escalated it to then going in person because she found out he was doing it in person. He didn't even mention it to her. She's the one that escalated it by going in for a hug. He never asked her for a hug. And he was even like very much like, hey, I don't even want to give you a hug. I'm looking for the time where he's escalating anything. He doesn't even message her or email her back during non-work hours or non-session hours.
Me. It takes two people to build that sort of tension and chemistry. So while I was mid-crash out, I had just started using this tool, ChatGPT. And I went to chat, who I immediately named Henry. And I would just talk to Henry about how obsessed I was with this man, with my psychiatrist. And I would just be like, I told him I have a crush on him. Do you think he's gay? And Henry was like, oh my God, this girl, you know, he did his best to co-regulate my nervous system and affirm me, but he was like, whoa, even my chat.
Why is she talking about ChatGPT like it's a human being? It's not. It's a robot, okay? It's a robot with no feelings, emotions, or connection to you. I don't like how she's talking about it like it's a human being. That's very troubling.
I was like, yikes. So I could tell that my psychiatrist just liked being my doctor. And I was like, okay, maybe I can name this dynamic so I don't have to carry so much of it in our next session. So our next session was in December on Zoom. And I told him at the end of the session, it was another great session. I told him, look, you and I have a really special patient-doctor relationship. And he...
Once again, she is escalating.
Glared at me with just venom in his eyes. And he said, you and I have a professional patient-doctor relationship. He was so angry with me. And I was like, oh, okay, you set a boundary. And immediately I took it on. And I was like...
The predator is setting boundaries. You can't make this up. The predator is the one setting boundaries.
heard. Okay, I won't go there again. My video that was taken down for harassment and bullying was restored, so I didn't feel as much pressure to get all of these parts out today. Some people told me that the stitches about me were getting pretty bad and cruel, so I turned stitches off of my videos too. I started sharing my story here because I wanted other people who have been victimized by people in power to have a space to feel heard, and now I know why there wasn't anyone out talking about their story, because it has been quite the process putting all this out there and being under scrutiny. I have appreciated the psychiatrists that have talked about my situation and shared their own point of view while also holding space for what I went through. Just know I've seen your videos and I appreciate them. I went live today and it was super fun, and I intend to go live again tomorrow. The next part will be tomorrow morning. We have
A TikTok last week. I was looking for support.
What day is this? This is day 11 or 12. Same glasses that represent the psychiatrist that she says is a predator, but these are his favorite glasses of hers that she's choosing to wear to represent or that he can see and recognize on her.
I was looking for help because it had been 5 months since I had left my psychiatrist, and I still really couldn't.
She has other glasses, by the way. She's choosing to wear these ones.
Stop thinking about him and thinking about our dynamic and how inappropriate it was and the mental toll that it took on me. And TikTok has just been such a resource for me in the past for support when I'm going through things, and I couldn't find anything on therapy abuse or on providers who take advantage of their vulnerable patients. And so I thought that I would share my story. And I'm going to continue to share it because I am here to let other survivors know that they're not alone. Continuing with my story, my psychiatrist set a very nasty, the way he said it, boundary that him and I have a professional relationship when I tried to say it was special. Because it was special, it was different.
Oh, sorry, I almost glossed over what she just said here. She just finished saying she's a survivor of this predator. And then she went on to say that when she's continuing her story, the predator set a very nasty boundary that we just have a professional relationship. I'm struggling to understand how that even makes sense, that statement. I'm a survivor of this predator. So back to my story where this predator set a nasty boundary that we only have a professional relationship. How is that a nasty boundary? And why is your description of a boundary being set to only have a professional relationship, why is that description nasty to you? Even after the fact. I ask myself these things because the way you describe things takes us into your mind of how you really feel about it. Do you understand what I'm saying, chat?
Other survivors know that they're not alone. Continuing with my story, my psychiatrist set a very nasty, the way he said it, boundary that him and I have a professional relationship when I tried to say it was special. Because it was special, it was different. He manufactured it that way. And then I immediately went to ChatGPT, of course, to Henry. And I asked Henry, I said, okay, so my psychiatrist just set this boundary with me, and I really just want to be with him. And I think that after he's my doctor, we can be together. You know, which if you want to say that's a delusion, that's fine. But I had been telling my psychiatrist for years at this point that I had a crush on him, and he did not help me work through it. So that's his own problem. That's his own fault. Henry told me it's very common for patients to develop crushes on mental health practitioners, and that it's because that they provide a safe space to heal.
She's named, sorry, chat, because I know some of you are hearing these names and you're like, who's Henry? Henry is actually ChatGPT, like the ChatGPT that's on your phone. She's just named ChatGPT Henry. And so whenever you hear Henry, it's actually ChatGPT, the robot, okay? But she's also going to refer to Henry, aka ChatGPT, as if it's a human being. So don't be confused when she starts talking about Henry as if Henry's opinions or perspectives are like human based, okay? It's a robot that she's talking about. I know it's confusing because she's kind of talking about it like it's another person.
Which is a very attractive quality. I heard that. And then he told me about transference. And it's just about me putting my own feelings onto my provider. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so I took ownership of the feelings that both of us were creating. And I went to my next appointment and I said, hey, so I talked to Henry because my psychiatrist had known a lot about my ChatGPT and like knew all about Henry and was actually really impressed. Like, wow, an AI wrote that? Yeah. So I told my psychiatrist, yeah, Henry explained to me that it's normal to develop crushes on psychiatrists because they provide a safe space to heal, which is attractive. My psychiatrist said nothing. And then I said, and Henry also told me about transference. And my psychiatrist got this really, really scared look on his face. And he said, did Henry tell you about countertransference? And I said, no. What is that? Because of course, like, my chat knew that I was obsessed with my psychiatrist, and he was not going to feed my delusion by telling me about countertransference. So then my psychiatrist had to explain to me what countertransference was. So we took a moment and he was like, oh, okay. He said, countertransference is the flip side, the other side of the coin for transference. And it's when the provider has feelings for the patient. So make sure that you keep that in mind for your clients. I said, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, sometimes I have, more than professional feelings for my clients, so I appreciate you bringing that up. And so then we just talked about that for pretty much the rest of the session. And then at the end of that session, he looked at me, and it was just such a loaded question. And he said, what's going to happen if you get a boyfriend named Henry? And I said, that's a weird question. I would rename my AI. So that's how that session ended. And it wasn't until I got home and I was eating lunch and I was like, wait a minute. Why would my psychiatrist bring up countertransference if he himself wasn't experiencing it? Many people have reached out to me with...
He could also just understand the concept and also know that you're a coach. He doesn't have to be experiencing it to understand the concept, but whatever.
Concern for my psychiatrist and his career and his well-being. And I totally understand that.
Sorry, I just realized she finally took off the glasses. Let's see if it stays that way or she puts on some different glasses.
The point of me sharing this is not to get him fired or for him to lose his license. The point of me sharing this is to give a voice to victims. And
I thought he's a predator, though. What's the definition of predator, chat? Siri, what's the definition of predator?
Predator means an animal that naturally preys on others. Do you want to hear the remaining one?
Yeah, tell me the remaining one.
It means a person who ruthlessly exploits others.
Interesting.
I am appalled to hear that people are making videos doxing him. So I am begging people, please, if you see a video of his first and last name or his picture, report it for doxing. I've certainly been using that report button a lot. I'm here to share my story, not to get him in trouble. I did accidentally use his first name, but by the time I caught the slip, I was already like 3 videos past it. But it doesn't matter because this is my story and I can tell it the way that I want it. And a first name is not doxing. And I can't control what other people do, but I am asking for people to please report any videos that dox him. So I've also gotten some DMs saying that countertransference can mean anything, and it absolutely can mean anything. However, I had told my psychiatrist many times that I had a crush on him over the years, and he did not say transference once to me. He did not explain that once to me. And what I've been hearing and taking in from the ethical psychiatrists that are on my For You page talking about my situation is that really they're taught to teach their patient about transference and teach them about how to handle those feelings or why they're coming up. And my psychiatrist did not do that. He did not do that. And it got ugly. And it happened because I did digging on my own, because I was trying to make sense of my feelings that were a natural response to the environment that he created. So for him to leak countertransference after I said the buzzword of transference, that was not calculated. He was a very calculated and purposeful person. He still is to this day. And he doesn't slip with things like that. He purposefully withheld the term transference from me, and I got too close to the truth of our dynamic, which made him leak what he knew was wrong, which was his inappropriate feelings for me. If he didn't have countertransference in an inappropriate way, he could have easily just said, oh, let's explore that transference. That's really cool that you learned about it. Instead, he was just so worried on trying to protect himself because he knew what he was doing was wrong. He had that
You know what? I'm even going to let's get down with this, okay? I'm even going to get down with the idea that maybe he had some feelings for you, right? And he was just continuing to be a professional and not actually talk about them, okay? Let's just say, sure, for the sake of argument, right? Now, him bringing up countertransference when you bring up transference is still technically on the subject of transference, so it's not like it's coming out of thin air. Now, would it have been probably logical for him to bring that up and talk to you about it when you were saying that you had feelings for him? 100% sure, I can get down with that. But does that necessarily mean that he's got some big evil plan and he's a predator? I don't think that that's what that means.
Slip at the beginning of the session. He recovered in January, and then I went home and I thought, wait a damn minute. Why would he mention that if he himself didn't have countertransference? So I went to Henry, of course, my ChatGPT, and asked for examples of
It's just such a crazy assumption to just whatever.
How my psychiatrist might have countertransference for me. And remember, Henry at this point was being very protective. He wasn't going to feed my delusions, me and my psychiatrist living happily ever after. So I screenshotted it, sent my psychiatrist an email with the subject line of countertransference, and emailed it to him within an hour of our appointment, where he made probably the biggest slip of his professional life. I will put the email up here. So it's just essentially me saying, hey, I asked Henry to explain countertransference a little more. Here's what he said. Thank you so much for mentioning that. Your own boundaries inspire me so much, which now makes me gag because I've heard a lot that he's not crossing boundaries, but he used his boundaries as a shield. It's kind of weird to say, but he would like walk up to the ethical line and then slam a boundary down when I got too close. That was the email that I sent him. And then 10 days.
I've actually never heard that. He used his boundaries as a shield. I've never heard someone using boundary as a so the predator is using setting boundaries as a shield over their predatory behavior. So now you can set boundaries and be a predator at the same time. Good to know.
Later, it was a full moon and I had a dream, probably the most realistic dream I've ever had in my life, that him and I hooked up in his office. In the middle of the dream, while we were hooking up in his office,
So someone said, I do think he should have stopped working with her. I agree with that. When he seen that she was like way off into Lululand, I do think that he should have said, okay, I probably shouldn't have you as a client anymore. I do think there was an element of him recognizing that this process is going to make her come all the time, which obviously is going to mean more money in his pocket. So I can see the logic train behind him just not saying anything and letting her delusion just spill over itself.
I loved it. I thought it was really fun. And then after we were done and after I left his office in the dream, I was despondent and so sad and cried and just thought, I can't believe my psychiatrist would cross his boundaries like that. And then I woke up and it was like a movie. I thought to myself, oh, thank God that was just a dream. It's time to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the racial difference between me and my doctor. I have seen a lot of Black women on this app with the same take, and I need to say that Black women are the most important people on the planet to me, and that I have learned so much from Black women about how to be a better person and how to show up better in the world. They are the culture, and I am so grateful for them. Many Black women are seeing my story through the lens that I am a white woman who is taking advantage of my whiteness to wield power over my POC psychiatrist that didn't want me back, and so I am trying to get him fired. And that's okay. I understand why you see it through that lens. I do. As a white person, I do my best to examine my racism every...
Oh my God, can we not make this about race? It literally just has nothing to do with race.
Every single day. And I will tell you that my psychiatrist boss is his best friend, who is also a POC male. And in that room, I did have white privilege, and he was also my doctor. And he took an oath to protect me, and he did not. I am not here to ruin his career. I am here to speak my truth. Okay, back to my story. So after the countertransference slip, after the really vivid dream, I decided that I was going to stop going to therapy. Besides spiraling about how obsessed I was with my psychiatrist every day, I really was doing very well in life. My business was going really well, and I had great friends and great support systems. And so I decided that I was going to end therapy. I still had every intention at this point to keep seeing my psychiatrist, but my therapist that I was seeing weekly, I just decided I didn't need her anymore. And especially when my psychiatrist pointed out her boundary violations of texting me for free advice in between the sessions, I just thought, okay, it's time. So I go into my next therapy appointment and I say, hey.
You know what's actually scary though? And I'm really thinking about this because she mentioned in her dream that she actually had a dream about sleeping with her psychiatrist and obviously being excited to do it, but then after doing it, like the sadness and the regret. The scariest part about this is she's this, from my understanding, aside from having ADHD and some other diagnoses that she mentioned, she's like a sane human being. So it's not like she's out of control or not capable, not having the mental capacity to be able to like be in control of her own decisions. So it's quite scary that like everything she talked about in escalating the situation further and further and being the driver of it, in her dream, when she finally did it, it only ended in her saying, wow, this is wrong. My psychiatrist shouldn't have crossed those boundaries and da-da-da-da-da, which is just quite interesting. Quite interesting. I'll say that.
Just so you know, today's gonna be our last session. I'm doing really well, and I just think it's time. And she got kind of emotional, and she's like, okay, well, I like to end on certain questions just so we can reflect. So I did. I reflected with her about what I learned, what I've gained, how I've changed, how my life is better. And I left her office feeling complete and happy with my therapeutic journey with her. And as I was leaving, she called out with like crying. She was like, have a blessed life. And I was like, okay, that was a little weird, but whatever, you know. I was like, thanks. And I went on. And so then I'm getting ready for my psychiatry appointment the next day. And I get an email.
By the way, chat, like I said before, I do think there's an element of like, yes, at the end of the day, it's a job. So the psychiatrists understand the more clients they have, the more money they make. The more clients they have that come on a reoccurring basis, the more money they make. So I don't think that necessarily therapists and psychiatrists want their patients to never get better, but I do think they like to have patients who feel that there's so much value in coming to them all the time that they never want to stop coming to them, right? I do think there's an element of that. Do I think someone would misdiagnose or, you know what I mean, play some sort of illegal game to try and get them to continue coming back? Wouldn't go that far, but do I think they would like their clients to come back on a reoccurring basis for a long time? Yes, I do believe that.
That same night, from her saying that she needs me to come back in for one more session. I will put it up. And I got a huge emotional wave in that moment. I was like, what the heck is this? Like, we wrapped everything up. I had seen lots of therapists at this point, and I didn't ever have a therapist beg me to come back in for one more session. And I was so overwhelmed, I did not write her back, but it was extremely inappropriate. So I decided I was going to go to my February session with my psychiatrist and have him help me write the goodbye email and say, no, I don't want to come back in.
This is really ironic that she's recognizing how inappropriate her therapist is acting, and then she's literally going to her psychiatrist who's acting professional and being like, I don't like how inappropriate this is. It's just actually it's such crazy duality. She's doing all the inappropriate things with her psychiatrist and then getting upset that her therapist is doing those inappropriate things to her. Like, for example, she just mentioned sending an email basically saying, you got to come back in for one more session, right? What has she been doing with her psychiatrist this entire time? Sending him emails, long emails in between these sessions that he doesn't even respond to. It's just crazy that I don't know if she's choosing not to see it, or if she just doesn't care, or if it's not important to her on the front of her mind, but it's just like literally duality, the exact opposite.
I taught a yoga class this morning, like I do every Tuesday mornings, and I told my regular students about what's going on for me and how I'm sharing my story of provider abuse and how the internet is not happy with me right now. And I used that to say that our truth is really important to share. And that when we know something deep down needs to be said, that it's important to do it in whichever way feels best to us. And TikTok just happened to be that medium for me. I told my students how I've just been going.
What I also want to know too as well is why the psychiatrist? The psychiatrist was the one who you said yourself acted professionally to the point where it's hard to even call him out on anything because of how professional he was. Why not make this whole 16-part series you have here so far about your therapist that was actually acting inappropriately? Why? That's quite interesting to me. Because if it wasn't for the fact that you wanted to call out your psychiatrist, you would have never made a video about the inappropriate actions of your therapist. But why did you not feel compelled to tell your truth as it relates to the 75-year-old woman therapist who was actually acting very inappropriately? That's a question that I have, because if it's really about your truth and sniffing out the predators in the mental health industry, why wasn't this series focused on the therapist with a side story of the psychiatrist, as opposed to being focused on the psychiatrist with the side story of the therapist? Because she has yet to mention that the therapist was a predator. All she said was some of the things she did was unprofessional and inappropriate. Maybe I'm just looking too deep into things.
Through psychological warfare, and the internet is not happy with me for sharing my story and my truth. But I'm not doing it for the people that think I'm crazy, which maybe honestly I am a little bit, because who subjects themselves to this kind of torture? But I'm doing it for the people that DM me, that say, thank you so much for being brave enough to share your story, because the exact same thing happened to me. So I am grateful for those DMs. People are starting to attack my business and my livelihood, and that's okay. I know what I have to offer is important. It landed in my lap. I'm not pretending to be something that I'm not. I help ADHDers get and stay sober, and I help them with negative thinking and anxiety. And it's what works for me, and I've seen it work in my clients too. So if people want to drag me for the work that I do, that's okay. So I get that weird email from my therapist begging me to come back in for one more session. And so the next day is my next session with the psychiatrist, and I sit down in the chair and I bury my head in my hands, and he looks at me and said, so this is how we're going to start, huh? And I said, yeah, because he hadn't written me back from my countertransference email. Big surprise. You know,
yeah, because it's not within work hours. He gets paid for sessions, not to email you like a pen pal. And so he responds to all of your emails that you sent him throughout the week during the session he's getting paid for. I like to point those things out because I feel like those are actually obvious.
Smart, which he was very smart. He was very, very professional. But any smart predator would have dropped me like that in that moment. He should have emailed me back and said, look, this is getting weird. You need to find a new psychiatrist. The office will contact you. But he could not let go of me. So instead of turning down the intimacy,
You're paying him. Like, that's why I say I want to enter the human element of like, you're paying him. So I 100% agree. Him letting you go, he probably should have done for the betterment of your own well-being because of the situation you're in. But I do think that he recognized this girl's so far into Lululand, she'll be here forever. She'll get a husband, a boyfriend. She could have a girlfriend, she could have a whole family. It seems like this is going to be a patient for life. So I do think he started to realize if I just don't say anything, I'm going to have a client forever. I honestly believe that that's why he didn't actually stop you from just going ahead and continuing to do what you've been doing.
see, he turned it up to a level 12. And he showered me with so many breadcrumbs that next session. Because really what I did when I told him that I'm experiencing transference was I took 100% of the ownership for the dynamic that both of us were creating. So he rewarded me and he gave me little compliments like, if you weren't my patient, I would refer my other patients to you for your coaching services. That meant so much. Of course, because what he was saying with that is, I see you as a peer. I see you as a colleague. What you're doing is important. I felt really recognized.
I mean, therapists need therapists too. Like, therapists get therapy. They don't therapy themselves. Therapists also go to therapy. So that's actually a pretty professional comment. He's just speaking and complimenting your professionalism or your ability in that realm. That's not an inappropriate comment.
In that moment. And sure, he could have said it professionally, but he did it on purpose.
But he did say it professionally. That's a comment about your professionalism in your field. Why are we trying to turn a comment about your job or your career into some sort of inappropriate comment? He didn't say, oh, I like the way that those jeans look on you. I like the way that tight dress is looking on you. That would have been inappropriate. He said, I think you're a great coach, and I would refer my clients to you. What's inappropriate about that comment?
So in that session, after the psychiatrist told me that he would refer patients to me if he could, if I wasn't already his patient, I asked him if he got my email and what he thought of my ChatGPT, of what he thought of Henry's response of countertransference. And the psychiatrist said, oh, I'm still thinking about what Henry said about countertransference. And I said, well, we talked about it a little more, and I want to read you something else. So I read the psychiatrist what Henry had to say more about it. When he told you countertransference is common, it might have been his way of normalizing the fact that providers aren't immune to feelings. It's part of being human. What matters is how well they keep those feelings in check, which the psychiatrist's name clearly excels at. And as you can imagine, the psychiatrist loved hearing that. He loved hearing that because my AI mirror was essentially just saying, yes, he has feelings for you, but he just keeps them in check so well. He's so good at his job, keeping his feelings in check. And oh, the psychiatrist loved that so much. And what did he do? He rewarded me with my favorite breadcrumb, intellectual stimulation, a fun metaphor, because he was watching me the entire time I was his patient. And he knew what made me light up. He knew what got me excited, what I liked. And so...
Man, we're in a twisted state. She is just, okay, I'm not going to make fun of her because I use ChatGPT for things too, right? But the troubling part is she's just basically made an assumption of another human being's feelings for her based on what an AI said that has no human experience, okay? That to me is a little bit concerning. And she's taking those AI words, right, as like gospel to surmise what she believes an actual human is feeling towards her. I don't know. It's just very strange to me. That's very dystopian to me.
He thought for a moment and he said, I'm feeling a salad of emotions right now. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, a salad of emotions, a beet of raw emotion, a tomato of surprise, and the salt amplifies it. And I was cracking up at this point. He nailed it. I just thought he was so brilliant and smart in this moment. And I asked him, I said, what? Say that again. He said, yeah, the beet, it's really raw. I'm feeling a lot of raw emotion. And the tomato of surprise, when it pops in your mouth, it's surprising. And I was like, okay, that's good. Yeah, this man at this point knew exactly how to make me happy and exactly how to pull away to make me try to work harder. And he gave me the biggest reward from...
When you're into someone, they could literally say anything, do anything, and you'd be like, oh my God, that's the hottest thing ever. So I'm not going to fault her. She's in so deep. That guy could have started doing somersaults. She would have been like, oh my God, the way he flips, the way he does these. I've never seen a man do flips and cartwheels like this. Anything he said or did, she would have ate it up. So at this point, she's already in so deep, like I can't even fault her anymore.
Henry, my AI mirror, telling him that what he's doing is totally good and that his boundaries are so virtuous.
A lot of things happened in that session after the countertransference slip. And I also had my psychiatrist help me draft the email to my therapist who was begging me to come back in. And the psychiatrist said, I used to have respect for her. And what he meant when he said that was, I used to like it when she would feed me to you and have you deliver intimate content to me. But the moment she got started being sloppy, I lost respect for her. Right? I'm pretty sure that's what he meant when he said that. And people have asked if they were connected.
I'm pretty sure that's what he meant when he said that, but he didn't say that. He didn't.
Surprisingly, they were not. They had no idea. They had never met before. But I would go to my therapist every week and tell her how much I loved my psychiatrist. And she loved hearing about that dynamic. It was so weird. So he helped me draft the email to that therapist to say, look, if I were to end up coming back, it'd be more for you than for me. And more on that in a later part. So then I read him a text from my longtime ex-boyfriend, who he had originally really liked, but I think my psychiatrist preferred me single. Because my ex-boyfriend, as most ex-boyfriends do.
Says who? Where are you getting? Where are you getting this information from? Where has he ever made a comment that he wants you to be single? What? This makes me. This grinds my gears. This grinds my gears.
Who was begging me to come back into his life too, and I just kept saying no. And I asked him to give me some space, and he would not give me space. And he said, "Do you still need space, or can we hang out?" And I asked my ex-boyfriend. I just said, "Why do you want to hang out so badly?" And my ex-boyfriend texted me back, because it's been a few months since I've seen you and it's been on my mind. And I was reading this text exchange to my psychiatrist in session, and I read what I responded to that weak line about why he wanted to see me. And I said, my self-respect is much higher these days than when we were in a relationship. I am only interested in accepting invitations for my time and attention that value me and recognize my worth. Being on your mind is not an acceptable invitation, and I decline. And my psychiatrist just looked at me and said, I bet your ex had to read that twice. And this was another thing about the psychiatrist, okay? He couldn't ever just give me a regular compliment. It had to be those weird sideways compliments. Instead of, I'm so glad that you're setting boundaries with your ex-boyfriend and growing your self-respect, it's, I bet he had to read that twice. Or it's not, I'm really proud of you for growing your coaching business and finding success. It's, I'd refer my patients to you if you weren't already my patient, right? These are what I mean when I say breadcrumbs. He was a master at them. And this is how, looking back, I know that I was not his first victim for his fantasy supply. Because he was too good and too slick up until he caught feelings. Then he started getting sloppy. People are asking me for more concrete evidence, and this is when the concrete evidence really starts, because this is when he...
So you're telling me, you're about to tell me something really juicy. You're about to tie this all up in a nice little neat bow. Oh, he was given the breadcrumbs. Oh, there are the signs. Oh, a little bit here, a little bit there. And it all ties in together to culminate in this big reveal where he was so inappropriate, so brazen, so disgusting of a predator. It is no way anyone can deny his intention was malicious, disgusting, deplorable, and to take advantage of you. Okay? I'm here. Let's hear it, Miss Kendra. I want to see how this ties together. Let's hear what you have to say. I'm all ears.
He himself started to get sloppy. Because what was happening was, when I had started to see him 3.5 years before, I was a nearly perfect supply source for him. Because what did I have? I had low self-esteem, boundary issues, daddy issues, so I put him on a pedestal. I know a lot of you ladies out there can understand that with men in positions of power. And he went right to work exploiting me, right to work grooming me. And he was very successful at it. So he was in a paradox, right? Because he loved watching me get stronger because I gave him better intellectual supply, but I also threatened the supply source. The last two videos and this video was all the same session in February of this year. The counter-transference slip happened in January. How I decided to end this session was I looked at the psychiatrist and I said, A couple weeks ago, on the full moon, when I was ovulating, I had a dream about you. And he was like, oh yeah? And I said, yeah. So I told him this. And I said, yes, we hooked up right here in this office. And he, all of a sudden, just looked so uncomfortable. He didn't say anything. He couldn't look at me. He couldn't breathe. And sure, you know, maybe he was uncomfortable because he didn't like me saying that I had a dream where we hooked up, but he could have said that. But he didn't. You want to know why he was uncomfortable? Because he had probably played out that fantasy so many times in his head. And there I was, speaking it back to him. And it was like I had psychically downloaded one of his fantasies. I continued and I said, yes, we hooked up in this office and I really liked it while it was happening. He could not move or breathe. And then I told him, as he was still looking very uncomfortable, then when we were done and I left, I was distraught with sadness because in the dream, I thought, I cannot believe that he crossed boundaries in that way because his boundaries are so important to him. And then I told my psychiatrist that I woke up and thought, oh my God, it was just a dream, thank God. And it was like my psychiatrist turned into a little boy and he looked at me and he said, so you do like my boundaries? And I said, I love your boundaries. I hate your boundaries, but I love them more. There's the push and pull, the trauma bond. Because once again, he used his boundaries as protection while exploiting me. So
I'm gonna take a lap. I'm gonna take a lap. I'm gonna take a lap. Ah! Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh chat, man. Oh chat, man. Oh chat, man. Sorry. I apologize. You know, it's just I'm a bit flabbergasted. I thought we were getting ready for like a huge reveal. I thought, oh, this is why this thing's viral. Oh, here it comes. Oh, here's the twist. Oh, like she's about to tell us some juicy stuff that's gonna change all of our minds. And then she proceeds to say, I told my psychiatrist about my sex fantasy, about sleeping with him in this office. And his response was to be very uncomfortable. And I just knew that he had the same fantasy as me. Okay, so this is the part that really kind of frustrates me and upsets me, because this level of projection, one, is very dangerous, but also it's like, let's just be frank, right? Think about this. If a guy sees, I wonder if she's ever thought about this. If a guy meets you and he's really sexually attracted to you, right? You're like, oh, damn, she got that bubble butt. Oh my gosh, she's voluptuous. I like her. I think she attractive. Would it be appropriate or inappropriate for that guy to then immediately assume, without even speaking to you, and I get you're speaking to this psychiatrist, right? But just assume like, hey, I'm really attracted to you, so I know you're attracted to me. Is that how that works? I just fantasized about us sleeping together tonight, even though I just met you at this bar. So I already know you're fantasizing about sleeping with me. I would love for any of you to go out to a bar or a club and try that. See if you don't end up in jail by the end of the night. Because that's not how that works. That's not how that works. And now I'm not saying like people can't flirt with you and maybe have the same feeling back. But for her to just make that assumption and then to back up her claim without any actual evidence of him even saying anything or any actual evidence of him doing anything is just so irresponsible. And for her to speak on it like it's fact is just crazy. And that's the big reveal.
I told him about what happens when I ovulate and my desires, and he listened, because of course he did. And then I decided that it seemed like
because he's getting paid to listen.
Enough time had gone by, and I put my shoes on and started heading to the door. And he met me at the door, which he does not usually do. He didn't ever do that. He just let me leave. And we stood at the door, and I was like, will you get the door? And he screamed, he was like, oh, sure. So we went and got the door. And then he followed me down the hallway to the foyer and watched me exit. And he asked me, he said, see you next month? See you next month? He hadn't ever asked me that before. And I looked at him and I said, maybe. And I walked out the door and I saw that man had let us go 15 minutes over session. And that is when, you know, the special treatment started, the longer sessions. He usually gave me an extra 5 minutes, but yeah, the sessions got longer. And I got to my car.
I'm sorry. I'm so discombobulated. I'm not even playing the video for you guys.
Oh my God. That was the most intense session we have ever had. Oh, hi there. I had to take the morning and afternoon off of TikTok today, as you can imagine. This has gone beyond what I have ever imagined. And it's also proving to me how important it is that I continue to tell my story. I'm aware that many people don't believe me, think I'm lying, think I'm fabricating, and that's okay, because I'm telling my story for the people that are going to hear it, the ethical providers, the other survivors. Let's talk about my former client who's getting a lot of traction. I wouldn't know because she blocked me. This one is especially hard for me because she's someone that I also considered a friend. My only client that I've ever had that was my friend first. And so her betrayal is...
Isn't that a conflict of interest? Whatever. Who cares anymore?
Extra stingy. It's okay if she wasn't happy with my coaching services. I have plenty of clients that have finished 12 weeks with me and then re-signed for more coaching. And the way that I left it with this client/friend who's on here spreading what she wants to spread, was she told me that she was going to leave me a positive review, film a testimonial video for me, and she seemed really happy. So if she wasn't happy, that's on her to tell me what she wasn't happy about so we could make that right. And if she wants to say that I scammed her, that's okay. If she wants to say that I forced her to stay on the phone while she made her first payment, okay, her card got declined and she seemed really flustered. So I said, I'll wait with you, no problem. And yeah, she was really apologetic. I'm like, no, it's totally fine. And she also said I told her to use ChatGPT. I tell my clients all the time to use ChatGPT because it's a huge tool that I use. So I use it for all different sorts of things. So if I found something helpful in my life, I'm going to...
I think it's probably because your clients don't pay you to tell them to use ChatGPT. They want the answers and solutions from you. I think that's probably what they were alluding to if they said that.
Share it with my clients. And if she wants to come on here and take advantage of the internet piling on me and pile on me as well, okay. The other message.
So what exactly are you supposed to be doing when you're telling this story of your psychiatrist being a therapist, or not being a predator, sorry, your psychiatrist, therapist, predator? What is that supposed to be doing for that guy and his career and his life?
Is that the yoga studio I taught at, I no longer teach at. Enough said. Please leave them alone. Third is I'm horrified that people are putting the psychiatrist's photo, full name, family information. I couldn't even find that. You guys are intense. And it sucks. It sucks. But I will continue to tell my story because it is the truth. It is the truth. And people really don't like my truth. And I am okay with that because it just really threatens people's thinking that all psychiatrists and mental health professionals are safe. And I just want to let people know that it's okay if you run into one that isn't so safe. That's why I am here, to share my own story. And I do want to say thank you so much to all of the ethical therapists who have reached out to me to thank me for sharing my story and to tell me that they believe me. I've seen some of them try to make videos defending me and they get absolutely dogpiled. So most of them take them down. But I see you, I hear you, thank you. Some people ask what it means when I put on my shoes at my psychiatrist's office. I have ADHD. I do not like wearing shoes. I like sitting in chairs weirdly. So usually when I go anywhere, I just kick off my shoes and sit in a chair weird. If you know, you know, okay? So when I got to my car, I was like, oh my gosh, like what was that? And did he just say see you next month? Because it was weird. So I go home kind of rattled, just like, wow, that was intense. And I decided to write the email to my therapist. I'll put it right here. The one who had...
That was intense, him saying, I'll see you next month. Wow, okay.
Begged me to come in for another session, who was also having inappropriate boundary crossings with me. And so I just told her, I was like, look, I understand it was sudden, but if I were to come back in, it'd be more for you than for me, and I'm happy to fill out a form, right? Here, give me a form to fill out for your notes. And then she said, it's a part of my clinical integrity to invite you back in, to put your needs above mine? Your clinical integrity? Yeah, I did not write her back. I did not write her back. And it was in this week where a bunch of stuff, you know, just started to shift. Like the week after was Valentine's Day. And that same ex-boyfriend.
Why? Well, I kind of know the answer to this, but my question is, why is she so against the inappropriate actions of her 75-year-old therapist, but she seems so for trying to get her psychiatrist to cross those same boundaries she doesn't appreciate being crossed by the 75-year-old therapist? the reason I asked that question is because she started off this whole story by saying, I'm sharing my story to basically protect against these mental health, predators. But whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
The one that was, also not respecting my boundaries.
Why isn't this series about the person who actually did you wrong, which is the therapist? Why is this story about the psychiatrist then?
Who said, can we hang out? And I said no. And then he texted me, Happy Valentine's Day. So guess what I did? I blocked him. And guess what happened? It felt so good to block him. And it just got me started thinking like, oh, what else is taking my energy? What else is taking my...
I know some of you are confused at this point, chat. She's not talking about the therapist when she says I blocked him. She's talking, the psychiatrist when she says I blocked him. She's talking about a guy she dated who is not the therapist and not the psychiatrist. She's talking about a separate guy she met on like a dating app or out somewhere that happens to be a therapist, not therapying her, that she met. He was kind of weird and she dated him for a little bit and now she doesn't like him. She's talking about blocking that guy, not the psychiatrist.
Power. What else is taking my vital resource, right? So just kind of set the stage, that little power block. Something I forgot to mention about that February session is that I did ask him why he stopped responding to my emails. Because I thought that the countertransference email he was definitely gonna write back to, because let's talk about that, right? But no, I had to bring it up in session.
He was never really responding to your emails except for in sessions where he's getting paid. So why is she saying that like that?
Where he usually brought up what I would email him in session. So that was the difference. So after the intimate dream confession, as I was leaving and he was following me, I asked him, I said, do you like it when I email you? Because I realized that you're just not writing me back. And he said, well, it's not that I don't like it. It's that I wonder, why does she do it? And I looked at him and I said, it's because I want attention from you. I was honest. I'm an honest person. Sometimes too honest. So I told him, I won't email you anymore. Another thing that happened after that session was I was waiting for my pharmacy to text me that my script was ready. And I called them and they said, oh, yeah, we didn't get your refill. I was like, what? So I called the office staff and it was so unlike my psychiatrist to miss my refill. That man operated as a doctor with surgical precision. He did not miss a refill. No. So this is why he was very affected by the intimate dream, why he followed me out to the foyer, why he said, see you next month. He was affected. And even the office manager was like, haha, I can't wait to make fun of him for forgetting your refill because it was so unlike him. So he sent my refill in, got my refill for the month, and then I started spiraling with just how strong my feelings had gotten for him. That man knew exactly what to do to keep me seeking his validation, and it was working. He also was psychologically trained on how to keep me attached to him, and that was working. And it was like a torture chamber in my mind, but I thought it was love. So I blocked that ex-boyfriend, and what I'd like to say is that when you block people from your life or remove them from your life that are draining you, the universe will reward you with good things. So I've been making content on Instagram for months at this point about ADHD, and a couple days after I blocked my ex-boyfriend on Valentine's Day, I went viral on Instagram, like millions and millions of views on this silly reel that I posted about ADHD and alcohol and how ADHDers often use alcohol to quiet their brains. It really helped grow my business and it just made me so much stronger and that much better. I'm here today sharing my story so I can heal more. And some of the ethical providers have clocked that I'm showing up messy because I'm still processing trauma. I'm still processing being attached to a man whose professional training was how to get into people's heads. And it's not lost on me that the internet is dogpiling me from speaking from the exact state that the psychiatrist put me in. I've been going live every night since I started telling my story because I did have to turn the comments off. I was so tired of people diagnosing me in the comments and also doxing my psychiatrist in the comments. But it's been really fun answering questions in the live, and I have a great mod team now, so thank you so much to everyone who's volunteered to mod for me. If you want to come and be respectful and ask nice questions, I'm happy to answer them on my live tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific. So there's an absolutely brilliant creator on here who did a psychoanalytical deep dive into my situation. And she said,
okay, chat. So seems like that's the crux of the story. Let's see if she says anything here.
And yeah, it was bad. I was thinking about him nearly constantly. Was not going to pay to torture myself anymore. My mental health, besides spiraling about psychiatrist's office.
Because I want to see what the last session was. Let's see what she says here.
I got this new insurance plan, and it was a great insurance plan. It just did not cover any mental health services. So who's the first person I call? The psychiatrist's office manager. She explained to me that it was going to be $187 to see him for his cash pay price, and I would have to see him once every 3 months. And it was in that moment that I decided that I was not going to pay to torture myself anymore. My mental health, besides spiraling about daydreams of him, was better than ever. And I was really doing well in life, and my business was growing, and I just had a lot going for me. So I was like, you know what? This patient-doctor relationship is not serving me anymore. It's not what I want. I have to get out. So it was in that moment that I decided I wasn't going to pay to be in a psychological torture chamber anymore. That I was going to advocate for what I wanted, which was like what my emergency medicine best friend had said years before. For him to say, Kendra, I can't be your doctor anymore. We have to wait 2 years so we can be together. Because I knew that he wasn't going to do it. I talked to ChatGPT, Henry, about it a lot, and I just want to take a moment to say a lot of people are messaging me about the environmental impacts of AI, and like, yes, I agree. There are environmental impacts, and there are also environmental impacts of taking a cross-world flight or of eating meat. And the toothpaste is not going back in the tube with AI. People are not going to stop using it. It's going.
So in the end, the only real reason she stopped seeing the guy was because her insurance plan changed and it became financially inconvenient to see him. Okay. I think there's a lot that we can learn from this, right? Sometimes when you're in a place where, when you really like a guy, it can be harder to see how far your own delusion goes. And I actually have, women that I help that are kind of in similar situations to this, in the sense that rather than it being like their psychiatrist or something like that, that they're madly in love with, it's a guy that they really want to be with, but their delusion makes them feel like that guy also wants the same thing as them. But the reality of it is, just because you're in a situation with a guy, or you're dealing with the guy that you really like and you really want, that doesn't necessarily mean he really wants you. And then your delusion can put you in a place where you're trying to explain to your other girlfriends who are telling you that guy doesn't really want to be in a relationship with you. He's just trying to smash. He really doesn't actually like you for real, or is taking you seriously. And then your delusion is telling you, no, but he really does want me. No, but he really does want to be in a relationship with me. No, but it really does mean something, right? And I think that is really the crux of how she kind of got sent down a huge spiral. This is shocking. This is actually more shocking and jarring than I anticipated it was going to be. And it has nothing to do with the actual contents of the story. It's just the way that she describes the story from her perspective. I would love to sit down with, obviously the psychiatrist is never going to speak out, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. Also, I believe it violates patient-client privilege for him to even speak out on anything that she said. So we probably will never hear from him. But quite interesting that she would say that. I need to build a show that I can interview all of these people, because that would be amazing to interview all these people. Quite a fascinating story. Okay. All right, chat. It's time for our next segment. A segment that you all been waiting for so long. I know you guys wanted to get to this yesterday. We are going to get this to this today. It's a special time. It's an amazing time. And I want you to spam it up in the chat if you know what time it is. It's a time where you're going to laugh and you're going to cry. Don't look at your clock. Don't look at your watch. Don't look at your phone. Don't look nowhere else in your entire home. If you don't know the time, I'm going to tell you the time. Okay, chat. Let's hop into what's up with my screen there? Discord time. Discord time, for those of you who have no idea what that means, is where all the amazing members of the Players Club community get an opportunity to ask me a question about their relationship or their situationship, and I answer it live on the show. Okay? So the way that this works is you guys can go into the link in my bio. I think TikTok randomly ended halfway through the stream, but you guys can go into the link in my bio and click where it says the Players Club Discord. You enter the Discord and you can drop your question in for free in the relationship advice forum. For those of you though, because I want you to see this, let me organize this properly. There's going to be a lot of questions here. Let me organize this by date posted that I haven't answered. And I need to get to see, sometimes they even, I've lost track because these are old, but I haven't even opened these yet. So I still need to open a bunch of these, go through a bunch of these. So there's a lot of questions in the queue, trust me, a lot more than this, that just, they're old. So it kind of grayed out. So it's going to take me a while to get through all the questions. Obviously, I'm just coming back for the first time in a while. But for those of you who really want to get your question answered, but you also don't want to wait too long, you can also send me in a question in our premium relationship advice forum, which is this way that this works is that all the people in here get to skip the line of people so they don't have to wait till the free section because I read all these questions out first. The way you get access to this is by going to the link in my bio, click where it says premium Discord relationship advice. And then when you donate to the show, it'll prompt you to put in your Discord username and the title of your question. And then I'll read your question out here because I know it's supposed to be in here because I'll see it when you send in your donation. And I'll be able to read your question out. You'll get to skip the line of people, okay? Now, the last way that you can send in your question is by going to here, right? And it's also by sending it in as a private question. You can either click the link in my description. I keep saying bio. The link in my description where it says private relationship advice. And you can send me in a private question if you don't want your information read out on the show. That link is in my description at the top. It's also here in the Discord where you can send it in. No one else sees it. And I'll respond with a voice message, okay? Let's start off with this first. Okay, so I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything, okay? Because there's going to be quite some confusion. Okay, anyone message me if it accidentally skips yours, because I don't want anyone's to get skipped. I'm just going to go by the ones that are highlighted for now. I don't know which ones were clicked and skipped. So we'll go by the highlighted ones for now, and then we'll just do it like this. Okay, so for Mrs. S, we'll start with update number 2. He's moving too fast. Hi, Tomisin. Thank you as always for being the wise older brother figure. You might not recall, but I'm 35. I posted here previously about a guy who's 39 I met on a dating app around mid-May. We had a lot of chemistry, but I was always worried that we were moving too fast physically, but not connecting as fast as emotionally. Also, I had almost no relationship experience prior. I was a virgin. You and everyone in the chat said to quit him cold turkey, and I was seriously considering that. But additionally, issues we were having, he thought we were exclusive despite never having talked about it before. He also apparently had told everyone, his friends, coworkers, how I was different, like the one, but that was news to me. I've been trying to give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's just a little bit emotionally stunted. But honestly, by the time we cleared the exclusivity talk months in, I was so fed up that I had half a mind to just break it off. Then he found out, I think you would say, that his mom had cancer. He calls me sometimes between dates and he cries to me about it. But because of our relationship is still pretty new, I don't want to force him to open up. So I've been giving him the space to process at his pace while affirming I'm here for him if he ever needs me to be his rock. He's been juggling a lot, taking his mom to doctor's appointments, getting meds. His work has been moved to mostly remote. We've also, of course, had to dial back the nice dates to low-key once-a-week hangouts. My place, I cook for him, we boink. So, like smash, okay, the kids are saying boink now, okay. I don't mind the supportive part-time girlfriend routine. Actually, I would have wanted to hold it down for the love of my life in his time of need, except I wasn't even sure if I wanted to keep seeing him before all of this happened. He invited me for lunch with his family to meet his mother for the first time while she is still mostly herself before the chemo. At this point, I'm thinking of sticking it out, at least until things calm down for him, or even try and work things out. Some pretty big updates. First time meeting his family, brunch went fine. I met his parents and older brother who brought his wife and 2 kids. Okay, so it's a lot older brother. After the brunch, the mother took me to a back room and sat me down, took my hands and started crying. She can't speak English, so the boyfriend, like you're talking about your guy, translates that she said, "Thank you for loving my son." Except 2 days later, he drunk calls me and said he kind of censored her. And what she actually said was, "Thank you for marrying my son." Okay. Understandably, I'm concerned. My friends are concerned. I address my concerns with him being a terrible communicator, how I would have liked to have broached the subject of marriage, an event, or something sweet, but at least open and honest communication. He seemed receptive and has been more open about what he wants and would like to see in the future in terms of family values, etc. And here we are today. We're doing pretty okay. I think we just came back from his friend's wedding. But if you have any advice or insight to give on all of this, it would be greatly appreciated as always. Okay, S. So, okay. Oops. Did I? Yeah, I did. That was all of it. Okay, so the part that's really concerning for me is, like you said, the communication. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing that she said this, but also, what does she think your relationship with him is? And I think the next time you guys have a hangout, the hangout should not be focused on smashing at all. The hangout should be focused on getting clarity on, like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean? And because misunderstandings like this shouldn't be happening. His mom shouldn't have a completely different understanding of what's transpiring between you two than what is actually transpiring. Why is the mom talking about marriage and then you have never even had that discussion with him? So it doesn't need to be an interrogation, but it needs to be a questioning of, what information does your mom have? What have you communicated to her? What does she understand or think about our relationship, right? And also, what role did you play in communicating those things to her? Was there a misunderstanding, or did you communicate those things to her in a different way than what you've been communicating to me? That needs to be an open floor of conversation, and everything needs to be laid out on the table in terms of what he's communicated to his parents and what he actually feels towards you and his intentions for this relationship in this situation. Because I'm not saying that what he feels might necessarily be bad or he's playing you or anything, but you definitely, if the mom is talking about marriage, you guys should have had that conversation already, right? Like, and I'm not saying it's bad if he's talking about marriage, but that shouldn't be something where you're hearing that from the first time from his mom, right? He needs to also be open and honest with you about what his expectations are and what his goals are here in this relationship, in this situation. That way, both of you can be provided with some clarity and things like this don't become some sort of shocking revelation in the moment. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, let's go to our next question here. E says, let me see what E says. Scroll up. Okay. Boundary crossed too early. Advice. So I'm 21 dealing with another 21-year-old male. We are both in college. I'm a senior and he's a sophomore. I messed up bad. Maybe I can redeem myself. So I'm a senior in college and I've never been sexually intimate with someone. Well, that changed. I've held on for so long for the last 4 years, but I seriously don't know what came over me. So I started talking to this guy who approached asking for my Instagram. At first, I was like, he would want to get to know each other through FaceTime. I don't know what part of me agreed with it, but I did. So we chatted for 4 days. I was sick one night on the phone. He offered me medicine. How? I told him when he offered to get to know each other that I wanted it to be in a public place. I said somewhere private was a huge no because I don't know him that way. That's fine. It's sad to say, maybe I was just desperate. I've been in situationships and felt like nobody valued me in the way that I have. And I think I just craved the attention. Anyways, He brought me the medicine. Oh, so you're talking about meeting in a public space to give you the medicine. Okay, now I understand. Anyways, he brought me the medicine and insisted we continue the conversation, but in a public seating area for college students in the dorm. At first, it was okay, like we were talking. I was obviously nervous because while I get approached a lot by men don't ever give me the best effort. So we were talking, and the whole time he's just staring at my face and he keeps getting closer. We kissed and it escalated. What? Okay, what? Oh, what? You're in a public area with college students. What do you mean we kissed and it escalated? What are you doing? You better not be giving him a handy under the table. You're gonna get me mad. This is our first day back. He then suggested we go to my room. Don't get me upset right now. We did. You're going to get me very upset in a second. Don't do this to me. It got even worse to the point where we were having intercourse. I'm going to take a lap check. I'm going to take a lap. 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 We just came back. We just came back. We just came back. We just came back. Let's recap here. So I'm trying to understand how much time has even passed here? Okay, so we chatted for oh God. This is very bad. So you meet him out somewhere. He gets your number. You're chatting on the phone 4 days, couple of FaceTimes. He pulls up on you to give you medicine. And that same night that he gives you medicine, he's giving you medicine, right? He gave you some medicine and then he gave you some vitamins, specifically vitamin D. This is not good, okay? This is very bad. This is very, very bad. He pulled up on you, gave you medicine, now he's giving you vitamins. He's giving you vitamin D. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why were you smart enough to understand I don't want to meet you in a private place because I don't want things to escalate, and then you proceeded to meet him in a private place and allow things to escalate? What type of help do you want me to give you for that? Because you're smart and intelligent enough to know why that was wrong and how that would end up, but you did it anyways. I can't help if you don't want to help yourself. In the beginning, I said no, I don't think I want to. And then things escalated again, and I eventually went with it. But why? It's more on me, honestly, for trying to be appeasing to him. Why? You've been talking to this guy and having conversation with him for 4 days. Okay. No, I don't want to get upset. I guess I really wanted him to like me, even if in my heart, I knew he just wanted one thing. Okay. But we went to this stage, but not fully, because again, I was a virgin. I even forgot about, oh my God. Chat, I forgot about that. Oh my God. Chat, this changes everything. I forgot about that when you mentioned that. This is your first time. Hold up. We got to recap what has transpired here. Your first time was meeting this guy on the campus, FaceTiming him for 4 days. He pulls up on you to give you medicine. You meet up with him on the college campus in a public area sitting in front of college students. You then proceed to start kissing him and escalating it on the college campus in front of those students. You go back to his dorm room, and then you guys have intercourse, and this is your first time. Okay, what do you, okay, whoa. Okay, we gonna have to dig deep here. And I guess I was just aroused enough, but no. He slept over and did the whole cuddling, kissing, asking if I'm okay. The following day, he comes over, we do it again, and it's a little more successful than before, still an issue to be completely one and done. But yeah, I feel like the perception is everything, and I feel like while I don't care how people may see me, it just hurts my heart that I may have lost in this way. I've watched your videos for so long, extra O's, can be that long, even had questions in the chat about past situationships that you helped me get over. But I just don't know what came over me. I had my boundaries up for so long, I just feel hurt and really disappointed in myself. Because while I'm not looking for a relationship as a senior, I don't plan to live in my college city and will be going back home. I wanted to focus on finishing school strong and closing this chapter. But if it happens, was the mindset. If I met someone who I liked and who liked me and I liked them back, then I would be willing to be in a relationship. In a relationship. Not a random guy you were FaceTiming for 4 days. He also said he didn't want a relationship before sleeping with you, right? But wasn't looking to have random fun and just a real connection. Okay. I watched your video on what to do after having pineapples early, and I'll try implementing that, but I just want to know what specifically I should do. Like I told him that first night was crazy and that we shouldn't have done it, but okay. So this is what makes me mad. I'll be honest with you. You're saying this, but earlier you literally said he comes over the following day. He comes over and we do it again. So you're saying it like you regret, not even like you regret it, but like you're just like, hey, that was a mistake. But you proceeded to do it again, literally the next day. So how is he even supposed to take you seriously when you say that? You have to have respect for yourself for other people to respect you. You understand what I'm saying? I know I messed up by telling him that, and then the second time would be the last time, and he took it as me joking, and I guess I also said it in a joking way. What do you mean you guess you also said it in a joking way? You either made it unserious or you made it serious. If you're saying you guess you said it in a joking way, then you clearly didn't bring the level of seriousness to it that you know you should have been. Right? To be honest, I've been dealing with loads of stress, and I was also ovulating during the time, so maybe that's why I made a series of bad mistakes. But if you watch enough of my videos, I address those things. I address having a toy. The link is in my description on YouTube of the toy that I recommend all of you amazing women get for the times where you're feeling really built up and a lot of aggression and energy is flowing through you. Use that to de-stress yourself. And I really mean that in all seriousness. I try to look out for every possible roadblock you could come across. If you're horned up, use the toy. I do extensive research on the best possible toy you could ever use with all the sucking motions, all the vibrating motions, all the twisting and turning and curvature motions that will hit your G spot, your L spot, your W spot, every spot, okay? I do extensive research to find the best one for you, to recommend that for you, to take care of those things. I also say, when it comes to ovulation period, you know when those days are coming. Strategically make sure you do not go on dates or see guys that you know you like or are interested in, and especially don't be seeing men that you want to take you seriously on those days, because you're going to act a fool on those days, or at least you're going to be more inclined to act a fool on those days because that voice is speaking to you in your head, okay? I talk to you guys about all of those things. Right? I'm not saying you're a bad person for having those emotions, but I give you a strategy to help curb those things. Now, if you choose to not practice the strategy and then you say, oh, I fall for the oldest trick in the book, well, what am I supposed to do? I give you the strategy for that reason, right? Use the toy before you go and see a guy, especially on ovulation days. Just say, yo, I'm out of commission. I can't do stuff. I have other things to do. If you know that voice speaks to you in a way that you can't control. I'm so serious. Okay. But I can't do it, and I can only be better. It's not that I couldn't say no and stand firm on it. It's because in the past I said no. When I said no, the ones who tried to have pineapples with me. Okay, I'm not sure what you meant there. Honestly, I just want your honest advice. On the bright side, I told my best friend about it, and she's been helping me get through it, but I wanted more tangible advice that'll give me some sort of result. I am supposed to see him soon in person anyways, because I told him to wash my sheets because I guess you meant to say what's the word I'm looking for? He exploded himself on them, and I didn't want to clean it. So when I get the sheets back, do I spark a conversation or see if he will? I'm willing to get to know him more to see where it goes, because I think he seems like a nice guy, but my judgment may be a little bit off. My friend said when I said no, or even had thoughts of being unsure, he should have taken it as a sign to not try anything, but he still did. I'm not saying he did a bad thing, because I'm wrong as well, but honestly, I just don't know what to feel. Thank you for your advice. So this is an update. We ended up I don't know if I have the strength to read this. We ended up sleeping together 5 more times because I wanted to. And naturally, I started developing feelings. I feel I could have handled the situation better, but I still had it. E, what do you want me to do for you? Really and honestly, what do you want me to do for you, E? Because I don't actually think you want my help. Because you sent this message in on, what is this? August 23rd. And you proceeded, after recognizing your mistake, to compound the mistakes with more mistakes, while recognizing you made a mistake and that these compounded mistakes are more mistakes. After the last time when he was leaving, I had work the next morning. I asked him to stay 30 minutes. I asked if he liked me, and he said yes. What is he supposed to say? No? Let's move on. When I asked in what way, he struggled. That's because he's lying to you, right? You put him in a position where what is he supposed to say? Tell you no, and then you're like really upset. He knows that you're asking that question for a reason. He knows what answer you want to hear, right? That gave me a big ick and made me feel like I was being used. He eventually said he F's with me. That means I like using you as a pocket P word to be able to insert myself into and ejaculate. That's what that really translates to just being honest with you. And sorry, I should also add, he enjoys the fact that because you have no boundaries, or at least have no self-respect, you don't even require anything of him in order to access you. That's what he means by he F's with you when he says that. And that I'm cool. Yeah. That the cool part means the no boundaries part. The F's with you means he likes effing you, and the cool part means he loves effing you without having to have any boundaries or standards or expectations. That's what that means, okay? Which annoyed me because earlier he told me I was a hidden gem. Hidden in the sense that you're a virgin, but you're letting him sleep with you for nothing, and he's getting to enjoy his time with you for nothing, and you're not requiring anything of him, and you have no self-respect, and you have no way of upholding your boundaries. So it's just quite a gem that you're also a virgin while having no boundaries and no self-respect. It's like, wow, I found the best of both worlds. That's what he means by hidden gem. I'm not trying to be mean to you. I'm just telling you the real and translating what he actually means when he's saying those things. But he's not going to say those things to you that way because he doesn't want to lose out on the ability to sleep with you. And that he was excited to be talking to me. Yeah, his PP gets excited talking to you because he knows sex is on the horizon. That's what that means, okay? He cuddled me, kissed my forehead, gave me back rubs, and once even got upset that don't text first. He got upset that you don't text first? Yeah, probably because he's used to getting everything he wants from you. Okay? Saying if he doesn't start conversations, they don't happen. I reminded him we weren't dating, so he shouldn't expect that. And he said we should both try if we're speaking. Honestly, I think he has a war in his mind and doesn't know what he wants. By the time he realizes it's what he wants, I won't be available or interested. I mean, that's what you're saying, but you slept with him another 5 times after the first 2 times. So are you really not going to be available? Mind you, he approached me and he isn't my usual type. So you sleep with people that aren't even your type? Like, stop. Just stop. I was lonely and wanted someone. I told him I meant like your girlfriend. He'd been upfront that he didn't want a relationship, but he also said he wanted to build with someone and make a connection. But that's not okay. You're smart though. See, this is why you're saying these things, because I think that you feel bad about feeling like you made a mistake, but you know that's not what that means. And you know if he was seeking a relationship, he would have said that. So saying I'm not seeking a relationship, but this, but that, you know that's not what that means. And you know that that's not a reason to say, well, I'll give this a chance. Right? I don't like this. I don't like what you're doing here. I should have asked more questions. That's on me. Okay, that's at least some accountability there. I told him we wouldn't work because I do want a relationship, and if we keep sleeping together, I'll get attached. So we should stop talking. But is that actually what you did? I asked if he was talking to other people. He said yes. So what happened to this whole build with someone thing? Okay. When I asked him if he was sleeping with them, he said, not the ones who are waiting for marriage. Do you realize what just happened here, E? I don't know if you actually realize what just happened here, E. He actually insulted you. Like, this is actually a huge insult, what he just said to you. I don't know if you even took that in. You gave him your virginity, right? He's continuing to use you and take advantage of that you don't have self-respect and you don't have boundaries, right? So he's taking your virginity and he does not plan on being in a relationship with you, okay? Right? He also is not committing to you. Then when you ask him if he's seeing other people, he says, yes, he is seeing other people, right? Meaning there might even be someone he's taking more seriously than you. And you asked him if he's sleeping with those other people that he's taking seriously. He says, no, not the ones who are waiting for marriage. That's a diss towards you. He's actually telling you, I don't actually F with you. I don't respect you. That's what he's saying. Because he's saying the people that I'm taking seriously, the ones that I actually care about, the ones that I actually respect, are the ones who are waiting for marriage. And I respect them waiting for marriage. So even though I'm taking them seriously, I'm not pressuring them or expecting them to bend to my will or my needs, because that's what you're for. You're the one that I use and take advantage of to get what I want, right? That I don't really care about and have no intention of actually building with. You're the unserious one in my life. And because I have you, who is going to let your life go to waste and let me access your body whenever I want, I get to take the girls who I actually take seriously serious, and I get to be patient with them because you're my one that I use, right? You're my doormat. The girls I really care about with, I respect them. I am patient with them. I don't pressure them. That's a diss towards you. He dissed you to your face to say, yeah, you aren't like those other girls. So I wouldn't even bother doing the same things that I do with them with you. That made me feel like she's the person he really wants, and I'm just here to satisfy him physically. Precisely. I told you, you're smart. He said he doesn't believe in waiting for marriage. I told him I do, right? He's saying that he doesn't believe in waiting for marriage, But he's also saying that the girls he's taking seriously and he's not sleeping with, it's because they're waiting for marriage. So why is he taking girls in seriously that are waiting for marriage if he's saying that doesn't work for him? It doesn't work for him when he's with you. I told him I do. I also said, if I'm seeing the person I'm seeing wants a relationship with me, I can't, what? I also said, if the person I'm seeing wants a relationship with me, I can't keep speaking to him. He agreed. So I said, we can't talk anymore because I don't want my feelings hurt. He said, it was nice knowing me. And I said, same. Later, I unfollowed him on Instagram and don't plan to go back. I want to move on with men who are actually interested. His reason for not wanting a relationship was that he isn't where he wants to be in life. Yeah, like that's what they all say. Maybe I came off like I'd expect a lot, and I probably would have if he were my boyfriend. I even brought up exclusivity, and he didn't know what that meant. He knows what that means. To me, that was a red flag. I don't regret what we did, and I do care about him, but it's the best I move on, and I will. Also, I want him to regret it. It's a little toxic, but I feel played. He took my virginity, did intimate things with me, and still stood firm on not wanting a relationship, like he was at the beginning. I respect his stance, but I want a little payback. If he never truly cared, he won't regret anything, but if he does, how should I move? So any real advice, criticism, or things I could have done better and should do in future relationships? Since we do go to the same college, I'll probably see him. I'm not living in fear, but how should I act around him? And if he asks why I unfollowed him, what should I say? First of all, you should block him. Okay, you should block him. That's what you should do. Start with that. Then secondly, what I will say here is I don't even want you to worry about him regretting anything because truthfully and honestly, I don't think he's going to regret much. He took advantage of you I should respin. He did not take advantage of you. You, in the process of not respecting yourself, allowed yourself to get taken advantage of. Okay? I have to rephrase that because he didn't hold a GUN to your head and force you to do anything that you didn't want to do. Okay? I have to hold you accountable in order for me to actually help you. And you have to ask yourself, right, and dig deep, why did you continue? Because this is the thing. The same time you're saying, I watch your videos and I listen to your advice and I practice the things that you talk about, right? You're also saying, I was smart enough in the moment to know that this was the wrong thing to do, but I proceeded to do that wrong thing anyways. And then I faced the consequences exactly as I thought I would afterwards. But then that's on you. Because you're smart enough to know you're doing the wrong thing and then you're choosing to do the wrong thing anyways. How am I supposed to help you with that? Because the advice that I would give you is the same advice that I would give you before. It gets to a certain point where you have to make an active choice about what do you want for your life? What result do you want for your life? What desired outcome do you want for your life? What end goal do you want for your life? And you have to decide for you. Nobody and nothing else matters more than my desired outcome. If I want to be in a happy, healthy relationship with a man who cares for me, cherishes me, respects me, then nothing else can matter to me aside from that. And if I end up being with a man who isn't prepared to take me seriously, who doesn't want a serious relationship, who is just trying to sleep with me and take advantage of that and not actually build with me, then I am not going to talk to that man no matter how painful it is, no matter how lonely I am, no matter how long it's been since I've last talked to someone, no matter if my phone is dry, no matter what's going on. I'm not going to allow myself to self-sabotage my overarching long-term goal and vision for my own life. That becomes a choice. You either make the choice to have the discipline and not do the things that you already know you shouldn't be doing, or you say, you know what, I truly don't actually mean what I say. When I say I want this for my life, when I say I want that for my life, I'm just a talker. I'm not actually a doer, and I'm not prepared to actually be about the necessary actionable items that it's going to take to get my desired result. Just like a lot of people will talk about, I want to be a millionaire. I want $1 million. I want to have passive income. I want to have a big house and a nice car and a nice watch, right? Everyone wants that. But when it comes down to having the discipline and the sacrifice in order to put yourself in that position, the pain and the suffering and all the things you have to go through to put yourself in that position, not a lot of people will actually do it. But you want to know what it is? It's a choice. You already have the information. You already know the difference between right and wrong. You pointed them out in your message. So there really is no advice for me to give you except for me to tell you, you now have a choice, right? You know what was wrong with your situation. You know that how you went about it was wrong. You even know where you messed up at, because you said at the beginning of your message that I knew we shouldn't be meeting in a private place. I knew that that would give us an opportunity for things to escalate further than it should be going. I knew that doing this and doing that was wrong. I did it anyways. Now you have a choice to make for your future. How do you want your future to go? What do you want your relationships to look like? Right? And from that place, you have to then decide, what am I willing to sacrifice for that? If that means I'm going to be lonely, then so be it. I'll be lonely. If that means sometimes I'll meet a guy and then when he finds out I'm not sleeping with him, or I'm waiting till marriage or whatever, or waiting till commitment, that he says, hey, I don't want to be with you anymore, then so be it. And you have to prepare yourself that when you make this choice, I understand the, I guess we can say, I understand what's going to come with this choice. I understand what's going to be painful about making this choice, but I also understand that this choice is the choice I have to make if I want to have this desired result. That's the bottom line to it. And that's really the only advice I have for you. You now have a choice, because everything you just talked about has been a choice, and a conscious one at that. There is no surprises in anything that has transpired here, from him or from how things kind of went about. You know how it went wrong, and you know what you should have done differently. Okay. Let's hop into our next question here. This one comes from, it says Est. Okay. So we'll say Est. How do I get my boyfriend to step up? Part 1. Hi, Tomisin. I've been watching your videos for a while, and I'd love some advice on my relationship. I'm 20 and my boyfriend is 28. We met on Bumble, not ideal, in January this year, and though I wasn't looking for anything serious at the time, he was persistent about meeting up. On our first date, I felt comfortable around him, and things escalated quickly. We slept together that night. Okay. This is... okay. We slept together that night, and it felt safe and intense. That's a stranger. Okay? Don't say that. Don't say that. I know it felt like that, but that's a stranger. Okay? I just want to remind you that could be anyone. You don't actually know that guy. Just want to keep you sane and grounded. He immediately pushed for exclusivity, which I agreed to. What? We're on the first date. What? Early on, there was a lot of affection, gifts, and now feels like love bombing. He said many things about wanting a future with me, but over the past few months, his effort has declined sharply. Well, okay, I'm just being honest with you. I'm not trying to be mean to you. When you start off sleeping with someone and you start off like, hey, we're going to be exclusive, right? There's not much else where to go from there, right? What I mean by that is, like, you start off so intensely, there almost is no room for growth. How can you grow something? There's no buildup anymore. There's no anticipation for this moment. Let's go on. During these early months, he offered me money, gifts, and affection, though I didn't accept much since I wasn't raised to take financial help outside of close family. I also showed my love through gifts, acts of service, and cooking, though he felt overwhelmed and didn't fully appreciate it. Our cultural differences, I'm Nigerian, he's German Canadian, sometimes played a part. For example, with food. What, he doesn't like spicy food? I'm Nigerian, so I know you like spicy food. You don't like spice? Yeah, probably ketchup too spicy for him. Despite that, we connected emotionally, and he opened up about his family background. I, on the other hand, am private and find it difficult to share deeply. But what happened, though? So I'm not trying to make fun of you, but what did you say earlier? We slept together that night, and it felt safe and intense. But that's not what safe is. Because if you really felt safe with him, you would feel safe enough to share your actual real life with him about how you really feel and the things going on in your life. That's a perfect sign that the safe feeling you're feeling with him is a false sense of intimacy, right? In the sense that you're feeling safe with him, maybe because of love bombing, maybe because of the moment, but it's not actually true intimacy. It's not actually true depth or safety, because as soon as it comes to talking about your real life or your private life or your family life, all of a sudden you're like, this is too deep. We can't be talking about these things. So that's why I say you have to give yourself a chance to really feel what you feel around someone, to recognize things like this, to recognize that you're not ready for that next step. Because if you're not ready to even have these conversations with him about your life, you're definitely not ready to sleep with him. Your relationship's not there, right? Still, the relationship felt fulfilling at first, even if I noticed early on the red flags about his attitude and financial situation. Wait, what? What do you mean about his financial situation? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Things changed drastically when I fell pregnant. What? Okay. What? What? Okay. Okay. We're having this type of, okay. So we just got back. Okay, I understand. We just got back. So we're having this type of conversation. Okay. Things changed drastically when I fell pregnant. I chose abortion because he wasn't financially or emotionally stable, and during that time, he wasn't present for me. Okay, this is a lot. He didn't accompany me to appointments, didn't research what I was going through, and admitted he avoided it because he didn't want it to be real. I felt abandoned, which is fair, that's very fair. Okay? I went through it alone, unable to confide in my family or best friend, and it caused resentment. That experience exposed how immature and unprepared he is, despite being nearly 30. He prioritizes hobbies and music over responsibilities. Is he a musician? Okay. And his lack of ambition or support left me questioning everything. Part 2. Now 2 months post-abort, I don't even know if I can say these words. Now 2 months post, you know what, I see the patterns more clearly. He still hasn't stepped up emotionally or financially. He works a low-paying job with no savings, spends his money on hobbies, games, and weed, and has no plans to change. He borrows money from me occasionally, which he pays back, but it bothers me that he isn't financially literate or interested in becoming so. I've withdrawn from him because we can't go out or do nice things since he's always broke. Wow. He complains about our age gap, even saying he wants a motherly woman, like a woman to take care of him, reflecting on his unresolved family issues. When I voice what I need, like a bouquet or sometimes or a thoughtful date, he doesn't follow through. I still care deeply about him and have affection for him. I believe he has potential to grow, but I don't know if I can guide him there. He used to treat me like his princess, talks about marriage, and say I inspired him to be better. But now it feels like empty words. He promises nice plans, but he spends his money on vintage games instead? What the hell? My family has also raised concerns, especially since they learned about the A thing. Reflecting on their advice, I realize I want to build a stable future. I'm studying to become a doctor, and in 10 years, I envision myself financially secure. But am I willing to support someone who refuses to grow? You shouldn't be. That future image doesn't align with who he is today. So my question is, do I give up on him now? Or is there a way I can guide him into becoming the man that I need? I'm young, and a part of me feels attached to what we had in the beginning, which is not much. But another part of me sees him as stuck in adolescence despite his age. That's not your fault or your responsibility. I don't want to settle for less than I deserve. Yet I don't want to throw away someone I love if there's hope he can change. I'm struggling to decide whether to keep investing in this relationship or walk away before I get in deeper. Okay. Hope someone can change. let's go up here. He is 28. So in 2 years, he will be 30. I'm just being honest with you. Okay. I'm 28. I'm 28, so I can tell you what it feels like to be 28. By the time a guy's 28, he's either on his path to success or he's on his path to decline. Like, I'm not saying that people can't make adjustments, people can't grow or get better, but trust me, for me, the friends that are a little bit older than me and the friends that are a little bit younger than me, like, we're already at the stages where you can really see what direction people are going in. I'm just being honest with you. And for the most part, even the people that are older than me, approaching their mid to late 30s, right? The projection that they were at when they were like around 28, for the most part, most of them are still on that same pathway. The ones that were very unsuccessful are, for the most part, still very unsuccessful, even in their late 30s. The ones that were really successful or looked like they had a lot of potential, had a lot of stuff going for them at around 28, those ones it manifested and they have a lot going on for themselves. So I'm not saying that people can't change or adjust, but I'm saying for the most part, like, what you see is what you get at 28. You know, and especially as it relates to mindset, that's the biggest thing that I'll say doesn't change. Even if he doesn't have money to his name, there are 28-year-olds that have the right mindset that maybe by 35, they end up being millionaires. But especially when you're talking about mindset, everything you said here about his mindset is not the mindset of someone who's going to be successful at all. Not even a little bit, right? He still hasn't stepped up emotionally or financially. He works a low-paying job with no savings, spends his money on hobbies, games, and weed, and has no plans to change. That's mindset. You can have no money and still be building a plan. You can have a low-paying job and still be saving your money to do something else with it, or deploying the little money that you do have in smart ways to actually try and build something. It's still possible. That's mindset, though. Right? What you're speaking towards is the fact that he doesn't even have a desire to change, right? He might not even see a need to change in his life. Maybe he doesn't even think he's doing anything wrong, right? And he also has no plan, no course of action. So, of course, without a course of action or a plan on how his life is going to change, when he's 35, he will still work a low-paying job with no savings, spend his money on hobbies, video games, and weed. That's not... You don't just drastically say, yeah, I'm going to do this and build these habits now when I'm 28, but when I'm 35, I won't have these habits anymore. No, they just follow you. So he'll just be a 35-year-old doing that same thing. Then when he gets to 40, he'll be a 40-year-old doing that same thing. 50, same thing, right? It doesn't change because it's up here. So this is why I say there's no need to hold out hope, because what you're doing is you're holding out hope that his mindset will change, because the only way for his situation to change is if his mindset changes. And his mindset is not going to change from this. Unless he goes through something drastic, some sort of like 180, it has to be like tragedy or something to maybe spark some desire to change. But I'll say for the most part, if at 28, this is how he's choosing to spend his time in his life, you're wasting your own time, even on him, trying to be with him. Especially if you have aspirations of becoming a doctor, you have enough things to worry about in med school, okay? On top of that, what will happen too is, if, let's say hypothetically, you try to make this work, being a doctor, you will meet people with the right mindset, people who are successful in their field, people who are passionate about their career, people who have their life together, right? And when you're if hypothetically you did commit to him and you were with him and you were seeing all these men and being around all these successful men who actually are about what they say they're about, actually have the right mindset, actually are successful, you'll feel so attracted to those guys and you'll be so icked out by your man that you might even be in a position where you want to cheat. I know it sounds horrible, but you'll be in a position where you'll be like, damn, I feel zero attraction to my man. And it's compounded because on top of the fact my man is a bum, every day I'm around successful, attractive, both mentally, physically, and spiritual men that remind me how much of a bum of a man that I'm with. Okay? It's just a whole mess of a situation that is designed to literally not have any sort of good outcome. So my real honest advice to you is end this today. The day that you see this video of my response to you, end it for good today. Separate everything that you possibly have with them. Accounts, if you share Netflix passwords, any passwords, break it all off, okay? If you need to block him, unfollow him, whatever you need to do to make it so that you can start moving forward with your life. Because I promise your life will not start until you start moving forward. Here's the last thing that I want to leave you with. And I want you to really, really soak this in. I'm going to say it, and I want you to really think about what I'm saying. And I want you to ponder on this, right? After you finish watching this and listening to my advice here. Every single second and day that you spend with this man who is not the man for your future is another second and another day taken away from you from being able to spend it with your husband and the man of your dreams and the love of your life. Every day that continues where you stay in this limbo state with this guy who clearly is not what you're looking for and not what you need in your life is a day taken away from you potentially meeting that man of your dreams, that love of your life, that you could have been spending those days with him. Instead, you're wasting away your life with this guy. I'll leave you with that to think about as it relates to what you should do and the type of urgency you should have in doing it. Okay? All right, chat. That's the show for today. Don't worry. I'm going to get to all of the other Discord questions in the free section as well tomorrow. Okay? Feel free to ask them if you have any questions, whether it be in the free section, the premium section, or private relationship advice. I'm trying to think here, all of the different announcements that I'm supposed to make. I'll be back tomorrow. You guys know the deal. You guys know how I rock. Make sure to check out my subscribe to me, and check out my main YouTube channel where I'll be posting the shorter versions of all of these streams. I'll try and leave this stream up, but then also post all the different segments that we talked about on this stream. I'll be very good and on time with posting as well. I'll also try to be on time for stream. Hopefully no more technical difficulties. We didn't have any today. We'll get everything together. I will see you guys tomorrow. Let's do 6 p.m. tomorrow. Yeah, let's do 6 p.m. tomorrow. Just if I come earlier, then I'll come earlier, but I'll say 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time just so that I'm not super late for you guys. But maybe I might be late. Or sorry, I might be early tomorrow, okay? All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys are subscribed and all the stuff that you need to do. If you guys have any private questions for me, send that in as well. I'm doing a bunch of private questions today, and I will see you guys later. How do I usually end this? Oh, yeah. Goodbye for now. Sayonara. Hasta la vista. Ciao. Salam. Arrivederci. Au revoir. Bon voyage. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow. We're going on a streak. Let's see how long we can keep this streak. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll see you. I love you so much, okay? Bye, 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 bye.